This is the regularly scheduled meeting of the Land Use Committee for the City of Newton. We are audio and video recorded. Present at the beginning of the meeting, I'm the chair, Rick Lipoff. In the chamber, we have the vice chair, Andrea Kelly, Maria Greenberg, Tariq Lucas, and at home, we have, what'd you say, John Oliver? Not a member of the committee, but John Oliver has joined us. Mr. Clerk, can you tell me what other counselors are here? Counselor Humphrey is here, Bill Humphrey. That's it for now. We do have a quorum. I've said that. And we should have Jonah Temple from our law department, and Katie, and from the planning department, Katie Wewell and Michael Gleba, and Elisa Sandoval and Kat Kemet. Okay, first item of the night is 203-23, Burton Ho, request to amend the site plan associated with special permit 32-21 to allow a curb cut exceeding 20 feet in width at 63-65 Broadway. Mr. Gleba, would you like to give us a quick one on this?
All right. Okay, so this is a request. Let me just get this up there. To amend previous special permit 3221 so as to allow a larger driveway entrance width that exceeds the maximum allowable width. That's shown here in the zoning relief, amend special permit 3221, and again to waive the maximum driveway entry width. That special permit in 2021 allowed 3 single-family attached dwellings, and the site plan for that special permit indicated a driveway entrance with a 14-foot width. What has been constructed is about 25.3 feet, and the petition is in to legitimize that width. Another part of the amendment to the special permit is that larger driveway width would increase the impervious surface area, thus reducing the open space from what was approved by that special permit of 56.4% and reduce that down to 51.6%, but it does remain above the 50% minimum. So when reviewing this request, the council should consider, as is shown here, whether the specific site is an appropriate location for the proposed 25.3-foot wide driveway as designed, whether that driveway and the property with that driveway as developed and operated will not adversely affect the neighborhood, that there will be no nuisance or serious hazard to vehicles or pedestrians, and whether access to the site over streets is appropriate for the numbers and types of vehicles involved. And also as the waiver of the width of the driveway, whether as shown in number 5, whether literal compliance with the requirement that the driveway's width be no greater than 20 feet is impracticable due to the nature of the use, location, size, width, depth, shape, or grade of the lot, or that such exceptions would be in the public interest, in the interest of safety, or the protection of environmental features. So here we see the site outlined in blue, north side of Broadway, just east of Linwood, between Linwood and Churchill Street. So this is the site plan as was approved by the special permit as modified before the building permit was issued, and that modification was made mandatory by condition 3 of the special permit, which indicated that some parking spaces, and I hope you can see my cursor, which would have been in the front setback, had to be relocated to the right side of the property. And as per the special permit, the building permit plans did show that change. Now for some detail, what we're looking at tonight is on the left is the driveway entrance as portrayed in the building permit plans, which does show a 14-foot wide driveway entrance flanked by grass on either side and a 16-foot proposed curb cut. What was built and what exists now is on the right-hand side, and you can see that the driveway opening is 25.3 feet, and the curb cut 34.3 feet, pretty much following what was in existence before the special permit and before the project was constructed. We do have one photo to show, and this was provided by the petitioner in the application. We can just see, so obviously the front dwelling is in the rear, and we see the width of the paved driveway and the parking area behind the back of the sidewalk. And we can see the approximately 25-foot width of the driveway as shown here. That's all planning has for now, and hopefully can answer questions the committee might have.
Thank you. Is there anybody from the petitioners or a representative wish to add anything to this?
Sure. I prepared a small slideshow of what the conditions are around the neighborhood. And
your name and address, please.
My name is Burton Ho. I am living at 65 Broadway in Newtonville. I live at the site along with my parents, Debbie and Gilbert. They're also on.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll be presenting. And if I could share my screen, and I have a small PowerPoint for you guys just to outline it, make it nice and easy for you. It's short and sweet.
Sure, go ahead.
All right. One second to grant access to Zoom.
Councilors Markowitz and Danberg have also joined us from home. Okay, continue.
Okay, now it's open. Okay, so here's the photo of our house previous to any construction. This is the way we bought the house. As you can see, the driveway made of asphalt extended into the street. There was no existing sidewalk. A little bit harder for children and pedestrians to get to and from schools, and just walk their dogs and such. So the driveway stood many years until the city made their own sidewalk, and this is consistent throughout the neighborhood. 30 Broadway, 27 Broadway. Those openings are much larger than ours. That's consistent with pretty much the neighborhood. No curbing. Across the street, the same thing. The concrete goes into at 62 Broadway into the street, as well as Linwood as asphalt into the street at an angle or pitch. As Mr. Gleba pointed out, this is the photo I provided of what the city of Newton constructed, I believe in 2017, 16, and I'm not quite sure on the dates. It's a very nice sidewalk. It's nice and wide. The children and pedestrians access it regularly to get to Horseman. My children also go to Horseman and use this daily as well. It's just consistent throughout the rest of the block, as they constructed the entire block of our side of the street. So here we have during construction. This was nice to have the wide openings because it gave it kept all of our contractors out of the street to make it easier on the neighborhood. We do not park any of our cars in the street because we have a nice large driveway, and that takes away from the stress of the neighborhood as well.
Mr. Ho?
Yes.
I'll let you continue, but this is not a first time we're seeing this. This is not an ask. This is a special permit that was not followed. It'd probably be better if you explained to us how that happened.
Well, we contacted the engineering department. As you can see, the spray paint in white in this picture, that was the city engineering department. And we asked if we should match the existing, what is there now. and their reply, and I have email traffic that they said match the existing, and you guys should be all set. All that white outline was by the city of Newton and the engineering department. We installed the granite along the entire frontage of the property for the city of Newton.
Your special permit specifically stated 14
Correct.
foot wide.
Absolutely.
Correct?
Absolutely.
And I don't know
Correct.
what these markers mean here. That really doesn't, I don't understand what that is, and I don't know if we have anybody from engineering here, but that's not, the plans, the special permit that you were granted was not followed. So if it's on the city, we need to understand that. But as for these markings, I don't know what they
So the markings here are because we broke into the street because we needed utilities for the rear unit.
That has to do with utilities, right?
Correct. So he told us we have to fix this area right here. I don't know if you can see my cursor that well.
Mm-hmm.
Fix this here, curve this with granite. We have to fix this dip right here, and that all the concrete should start from here and flow this way.
I don't understand with any markings that show that. They're telling you what you need to fix based on utilities. What should have been followed was the 14-foot wide driveway, correct?
Understood, but we went to the city and we requested a consistency ruling, and they told me to contact the commissioner of DPW, the commissioner of inspectional services for consistency ruling, which was denied. And
that's why you're here tonight. Yeah.
Yep, exactly.
Okay.
Absolutely.
All right, you can continue if you'd like, but that's basically what we're doing here, and it's up to the committee to decide whether a 25-foot wide driveway is consistent with the 14 and what we need to do.
Understood. So this is after all of our construction, the installed granite, the step down of the curbing, we actually pitched it so it wasn't just sharp edges, so tires and stuff don't get affected by this, or safety of the children around playing. Also, that we like it to have the driveway a little wider for the emergency vehicles, just in case that if anything were to happen, they have direct access straight back. They don't have to worry about cars in the way, and they would have a straight shot all the way back. If anything, any first responding needed to be happen, whether it be a fire, an ambulance, anything, they would have direct access to that rear unit, and it would mitigate any time or that first responder would need it to ensure safety. So we kindly requested amendment for our currently special approved permit 32-21. We gathered support letters from most of the properties around our home. It's attached to the permit application on the Newton Cloud site. Previously, we gathered an overwhelmingly high abutter support for this project. The city constructed an apron and sidewalk long before we requested to build on this special permit. We're just requesting a compromise and to leave this nice apron and sidewalk alone rather than pitch it and shrink it down. So if we complete the driveway in this manner, the special permit, it would still require the same materials that exist today in that location: concrete, asphalt, and granite. It wouldn't change any material or any impervious to that. And that's pretty much all I have.
Great, thank you. Is there anybody from the public that wishes to speak on this petition? If you're at home, please raise your virtual hand, or if you're here, let me know. I don't have anybody. We'll take it into committee. Councilor Greenberg.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a question for the planning. The memo states that the curb cut and the driveway entrance should follow what the special permit condition was. So the driveway should be 14 feet and the curb cut should be 16 feet. Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
So are we asking that the curb cut also be narrowed in addition to the driveway entrance?
Yes, that's typically the way it goes. The curb cut kind of is a few feet angled in,
Because
out.
the memo just mentions the driveway entrance. It doesn't say that the curb cut also needs to be narrowed.
Both do. They need to match what we approved in the special permit,
Okay.
which
I
I
just
think is
wanted to
14 and
confirm that.
16, right?
Right.
Vice Chair? Yes? Yeah? Yes. Yeah, okay. Go ahead.
So I supported the special permit project back in 2021, and I do not recall the petitioner having any concerns about the narrow driveway or the narrow curb cut. I don't remember them ever bringing that up, and I'm just wondering why the concern now and why that wasn't done when the construction was done.
Mr. Ho?
When we brought it up to the engineering department, we would like to have that, because the way our cars are parked, there was no direct access. So we thought that it would be, as long as we followed where the extending the green space and the FAR ratio, that we would be okay. I don't have much experience with special permits because I don't know these laws that well. So I relied on my construction team, and they weren't as well versed as you guys are, and it kind of just got extended, and we just, because we just had so many delays. COVID had an extreme amount of effect on our project. We hit increase after increase, as you all know, with inflation and such. So it kind of got lost, and then we asked engineering if it was okay to be consistent with what was there, and they said okay, yeah, make it consistent with what was there previously, and we should be fine. I know the planning department and I know engineering are different now. I did not know that during the time, or else I would have raised awareness of that during the original meeting. I was not 100% aware during that first special permit meeting about this curb cut and driveway entrance, because we had told our architect that we'd like to keep it existing the way it was, but I guess it got lost in translation, pretty much.
Gilbert Ho?
Hey, as you can see from the picture that we already reduced on the right hand side, the side installed granite and reduced to 25 feet for the entrance, and also from the website that on the Newton plan, the driveway, the original submitted with 2 parking space and cut open to the front lawn. That was not our decision. I don't even know that that was applied into the filing. All we know is from the plan to show that we supposed to bump up the side of the lawn to reduce the driveway. We didn't. So to us, it's kind of like the wrong plans get filed to the Newton, and then we go along with another plan, follow the VTP, the drawing to go increase the size on the right hand side for grass growing, and then for the left hand side reduce to sideway. So we try to follow the city, I mean the plan to do it, but as you know, we are not engineer, we're not architect, so we just go by what we understand. So that's what. And then at the beginning, we didn't even talk about the existing driveway at all from the permit that we applied for back in 2021. That was, we particularly told the architect that we do not want to alter anything in the front. We just concentrate building the house in the back, and that was it. So now all of a sudden we got all this ruling that we have to follow, and we try to comply, and we install the granite as we requested, and we also take on ourselves to reduce the driveway to 25 feet already. Hope the city council and the board can understand that what we try to do is to comply, but
Not erroneous.
and
Okay.
as the city allow 20 feet of the driveway, we only reduced to 25 already. It's just getting to see if we can get the city accept our application to amend the special permit to let it because we bought the house back in 2005 is a nice driveway through access to the house, and so
Thank you. Thank you. Counselor Kelly?
Thank you. To Gilbert and Burton Ho, I appreciate the place you're at, where you were relying on your hired professionals to help guide you through this process. And I understand, I think, from what Gilbert first said, that you thought the wider driveway would be more beneficial for emergency access. You made a lot of decisions on your own with very good intention, but that clearly violate the existing ordinances we have, that a maximum curb cut would be 20 feet and a driveway width. Not only that, but what we're really here about today is that what was built, and again, I don't blame you as homeowners because you were counting on your professional contractor and your architect to see this through, is that what was built is not in accordance with the discussions and voting and approval that were given at the special permit. Despite what the rest of the neighborhood looks like, despite the person you contacted who apparently wasn't the right person in engineering, all of that leads me to think that there was definitely a communication breakdown here and a process breakdown, and I feel for you, but I think what has to happen here is it needs to be returned to the condition that was approved, which is a 14-foot driveway and a 16-foot curb cut. And I think that's something you'll have to work through with your contractor. But we need to stick with what was voted on and discussed and presented. If there were two sets of plan, your architect had one, the contractor had another, the engineer approved another, that's something that has to be worked through. But for me, it is not okay at all that you exceeded the driveway width and the curb cut width far beyond what's both allowed by our ordinance and what was permitted in the special permit.
Thank you. Counselor Lucas?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. With this one, just to let everyone know, I did do a site visit on, I believe it was Friday evening, and I met with Burton Ho and his family, and I got a good view of the neighborhood and the curb cuts and the driveway and all that. It's clear and obvious that what is there now was not approved by the committee back a couple years ago, I believe. I don't think I was on the council at the time, but reading up on the documents, it's again clear and obvious that what's there now was not approved, and it goes well beyond what is allowed in our ordinances, which is why we're here. Should we or should we not approve a driveway width of 25 feet? Even if the driveway width was shortened by 5 feet to 20 feet, which is the maximum allowed in our ordinance, even if that were to happen, I did a site visit, there would be no additional hazard or safety risk if it was 20 feet wide or 25 feet wide. It just isn't the way how the cars are parked right now. That is the part of the driveway or curb cut that would be shortened. And the way how the cars exit on the right side of the driveway, it's fine over there, but on the left side of the driveway is where we would shorten it. If you shorten it by 5 feet, it would make no difference, and all it would be is just an unnecessary cost burden, to Burton Ho. So I'm in the position that we should approve the special permit and allow the driveway width of 25.3 feet. That's where I'm at right now. Thank you.
Anybody else on the committee at home? Councillor Bowman?
Thank you very much. So I can appreciate how confusing this might be to a homeowner and working through this, but the plans were very clear. And this, I cannot, you know, I'd be willing to talk about a compromise, although I really would prefer that we do the 16, the plan that was agreed to, because I think that is a reasonable plan for this use. There are 2 full garages, two-car garages, and there are additional spaces where people could park in front of the garage that would give sufficient space for cars not to be blocking access to the rear unit. But I can't support a 25-foot wide opening. It is, we have this rule for a reason at 20 feet, and I still think 20 feet is too wide. 20 feet is what we would allow in a commercial two-way driveway. So, which is, I think, the reason. And I remember discussing this, and I remember being part of the city councilors who supported removing the little jog out that will allow 2 cars to park on the left, which clearly these cars, based on that picture, are still doing this. I mean, our goal was to reduce the number of vehicles that were parking directly in the front setback. If we don't consider that, you know, typically when we design it, I think the rules are 1 car in the front setback. So, you know, I think this driveway is very wide. The driveway is very wide and the curb cut's very wide. And I would support not approving this variant, this change in the special permit and returning. But I would be open to it being at least 20 feet or at max 20 feet, but I would prefer that we do this, what was originally approved. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anybody else? Gleaning from what I've heard, you know, if engineering, who does not have the authority to give approvals for these kind of things, told you that that was fine, you know, I'm sorry about that, but that's not the way our rules, regulations work. It's the planning department and it's this committee that crafts the special permit. And if we allowed forgiveness for every time this happened, then we wouldn't be doing much here, and people would be building what they wanted without following our rules. So that's what's presented in front of us. And what we also say, even though this isn't a consistency, it basically is, if you came to us and asked for this 25-foot driveway, and we were just judging that, that would not fly. And we would not approve it, and we didn't, which is why we're at this point. We ready to close the public hearing and take a motion? Councilor Greenberg?
Motion to close the public hearing and motion to deny.
Sorry, before that, we'll go to Councilor Markowitz. Sure.
I'm sorry for the late hand raise. I was just going to add on, Chair. I think end of day, that's the crux of it. If this came in front of us, we wouldn't approve it for 25 feet. We probably wouldn't approve it to Councilor Bowman's point, 20 feet. So I also won't be supporting it. Thanks.
Thank you. We have a motion to close the public hearing. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, abstentions, public hearing is closed. We have a motion to deny. Can you please call the roll?
Councillor Bowman?
Aye.
Councillor Downs? Councillor Greenberg?
Aye.
Councillor Kelly?
Aye.
Councillor Laredo? Councillor Lipoff?
Aye.
Counselor Lucas,
No.
Counselor Markowitz.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-1.
Okay, motion denied. Okay, thank you very much. Next item, 200-23, Canton Circle LLC, request to allow a second oversized principal sign on the same wall as a secondary sign at 714, 724 Beacon Street. Who is here to, actually, we're gonna go to planning first. Ms. Kemet?
Sure thing. Let me just share my screen. Hopefully folks can see that.
Yes.
This is petition number 200-23 at 714, 724 Beacon Street. The petitioners here are proposing to locate an oversized second principal sign for the Beth Leahy Medical Office on the building facing out on Beacon Street. The proposed design requires relief to allow a second principal wall sign. The new sign will be located on the same wall as an already existing blade sign, so that requires a special permit, and the proposed sign is oversized, which requires relief. In reviewing this request, the council should consider whether the proposed exceptions to the sign ordinance should be permitted and are appropriate due to the nature of the use of the premises, the architecture of the building, or because of the location, it is in the public interest. If the site is an appropriate location for the proposed sign, if the sign will adversely affect the neighborhood, if the sign will create a nuisance or serious hazard to vehicles or pedestrians, and if access to the site over streets is appropriate for the types and number of vehicles involved. The site is located on Beacon Street in Newton Center. The property abuts multifamily residential and commercial land uses and the Green Line subway to the rear. The surrounding parcels are zoned SR2, MR1 and 2, and BU1 and 2. The site consists of a 37,932 square foot lot in the BU2 district in Newton Center. The site is improved with a one-story commercial building constructed circa 1920 with 45 surface parking stalls. Those stalls are located along the east and south sides of the structure. So that's the left and the top in this plan. The building has several tenants, including a post office, a medical office, and a bank. Vehicles access the site via a curb cut and paved driveway on the east side of the lot, and the lot is largely level. There's a unpaved area towards the back right corner of the site. The petitioner proposes to construct an oversized second principal sign for the medical office. Wall sign 1, which is on the left there, is already up. That is 93 square feet of sign area, and that faces the eastern wall of the building out on the parking lot. There's also an existing blade sign, which projects from the wall perpendicular to that out on Beacon. That is 6.25 square feet of sign area. The petitioner is proposing a second wall sign, here indicated as wall sign 2, which would be at the entrance of the building facing out on Beacon Street. Because only one principal wall sign is allowed by right for each establishment, it requires special permit relief. And relief is also needed because it is on the same wall as a secondary wall sign. It's on the same wall as that blade sign, and it is oversized, so it needs relief for that. So as proposed, wall sign 2 will be approximately 93 square feet and internally illuminated. It's essentially identical to the wall sign that's already up. So this is the sign that's already up facing the parking lot, but it will look pretty much identical, and the design of the sign is there to the left. The department is unconcerned with the proposed sign. It is a commercial building in a commercial district, and other businesses in this area have similar size signs. Many of them also have 2 principal wall signs. And because this building does have multiple tenants, this can help assist patients and visitors in finding and accessing the site. And that's all we have for now.
Thank you very much. The petitioner need to add anything to that, or is that good enough? Nice to see you. Can you hit the button there to turn that on?
There we go. Good? Okay.
Yep.
My name is Jeff Sarah with Batten Brothers Signs. Good evening. Planning outlined it really quite well. The only thing I would like to add is that historically on that property, there's always been the two principal wall signs, one on the parking lot side and one on the Beacon Street side. Back in 2019, 2020, the signs were all removed because the building went under a facade renovation. At that same time, Beth Israel and Leahy were in the process of a merger. They were developing their new brand. The building was completed. They finally had their brand developed and no signage. We had originally proposed the signage that's currently on the building and this sign, which was initially denied by the UDC, and the company at that time was under a lot of pressure to get any signage up, so we opted at that particular time not to pursue this secondary sign. As I said before, there were always two signs on the building, and this is very similar to what the Village Bank has on the opposite end of the building.
You have to go to the UDC this time?
We did, and they did approve it.
They approved it. Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Anybody from the public wish to speak on this sign? I don't see anybody. Take it into the council. Councilor Kelly.
Thank you. I see no problem with this. I think it is wayfinding. I think it's tasteful. It's not intrusive. It's attached to the building. I appreciate your history of it, and I will vote in favor.
Thank you. Councilor Bowman.
Thank you very much. So this is in my ward, and I really appreciate that we, this adds to the fabric of our city. It's medical and, primary care that's, close by and people can walk to. And I see no reason why we wouldn't approve two signs given its corner location, and it's similar to the Village Bank and other locations that we've seen that. So I'll support this, and the time I'll be happy to close the public hearing and move approval when appropriate.
Thank you. We have been joined by President Albright. Good evening. And Councilor Markowitz.
Thank you, Chair. I'll be quick. I actually had reason to go looking for this place recently. We had an emergency, and our primary care could not see at that time, so they directed us to this affiliate. And I actually found signage to be necessary there. So I think this is a good thing. It's a dense area. There's a lot of stuff that happens quickly. And if you're driving, I think a wayfinding there will be at least possibly improved by this. So I also see no issue with it. I think it's great. Be happy to support it. Thanks.
Great. Thank you very much. Okay. With that, I see no other hands. I have a motion to close the public hearing by Councilor Bowman. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Abstentions? The public hearing is closed. We have a motion to approve by Councilor Bowman. Do we have a council order for this?
Yes. So for proposed findings, we have 1, the proposed exceptions to the sign ordinance should be permitted and are appropriate and are in the public interest because the approved sign will enhance wayfinding from Beacon Street to the commercial property with multiple tenants. 2, the site is an appropriate location for the proposed oversized second principal wall sign located on the same wall as a secondary wall sign because it is associated with the commercial building in a commercial district. 3, the proposed sign located on the same wall as a secondary sign will not adversely affect the neighborhood because the proposed sign is similar in size and placement to other commercial signs in the neighborhood. 4, there will be no nuisance or serious hazard to vehicles or pedestrians because the sign will improve wayfinding for both modes of transport. And 5, access to the site over streets is appropriate for the types and number of vehicles involved. And for conditions, we have plan referencing, standard building, and occupancy conditions, and that the signs will be designed to comply with building code.
Great, thank you very much. Can you please call the roll, Mr. Clerk?
Counselor Bowman,
Aye.
Counselor Downs, Counselor Greenberg,
Aye.
Counselor Kelly,
Aye.
Counselor Laredo, Counselor Lipoff,
Aye.
Counselor Lucas,
Aye.
Counselor Markowitz.
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0.
Good luck. Good luck with your sign. Thank you. Take care. The next item is 202-23. Linda Blacksmith, request to further increase nonconforming FAR and height at 24 Braymore Road. Mr. Gleba.
All right. Okay, so this is a special permit's request to construct a one-story rear addition to provide an accessible living space which requires relief to increase the non-conforming floor area ratio, FAR, and height. As is shown here, this project also needed 2 variances from the ZBA, which they granted late last month, to allow a reduced rear setback of 8.4 feet and to exceed the maximum allowed lot coverage. The special permit request, as was just mentioned, this is shown here. This is to further increase the non-conforming height. It's not that the building is getting taller or the ridge line is increasing, just that the addition would change the average grade around the dwelling, and it would increase the measured height from 37.8 feet to 38.1 feet, with 36 as the maximum allowed. It also has a request to further exceed the non-conforming FAR, with increase from 0.58 to 0.73, where 0.48 is the maximum allowed. The criteria to consider, as shown here, whether that expanded dwelling with the increased FAR is consistent with and not in derogation of the size, scale, and design of other structures in the neighborhood, and whether the expanded single-family dwelling as designed, which increases both the non-conforming height and the non-conforming FAR, would be substantially more detrimental than the existing non-conforming dwelling is to the neighborhood. That's the standard extension of non-conformity language. We see the side here again in blue on the right side of the west side of Braymore. The Pike is pretty slightly to the north, and we can see some of the buildings close by. Here's the side plan as proposed, kind of keeping somewhat that main orientation with the Braymore Road on the right. The gray crosshatch is the footprint of the existing structure. The red is the proposed addition. As this, it would be in the rear, and it would be a single-story addition. So it's quite a bit lower than the existing dwelling. There would be a ramp to allow the accessible space to be reached via a wheelchair or other device. Small porch and addition. Here are the proposed elevations. The upper left-hand corner shows the front elevation from the street. We can see the rear addition on the left hand. Of that rendering outlined in red, you can see the single story, staircase, and kind of the ramp as we're looking going upward. The bottom left is the left-hand side elevation, which shows the single story addition. We can see how it is relatively low compared to the existing dwelling. And we can see the ramp in profile there. The upper right would be the rear elevation. So again, single story. In the lower right, we see how the addition would appear from the right-hand side, looking towards the left-hand side. Just a single photo to show. The dwelling is in the middle of the photo. Really, so the addition itself would be tucked in the rear behind the landscaping that we see here. And so it would have limited visibility from the public right of way. So that's all planning has for now. It can hopefully answer any questions that the committee might have.
Thank you very much. We can hear from the petitioners if you'd like. If you have anything to add to that, I will let you know that I was at the ZBA meeting for another item, so I am familiar with what you're doing, but everybody else needs to know about it too, so come on up.
So are the addition where...
Can you speak to the microphone, please?
Oh, sorry.
Is it on? Yeah.
Linda Blacksmith, Stenik Radush, we're married. And the addition that we want to put on our house is for our quadriplegic son who was injured several years ago. And since that time, my husband and he have been living in an apartment. We've been separated, and we want to build the addition so we can all be together and care for him together. At this point, I'm going there every day, commuting back and forth.
The reason we live in we separated is because we could not find a way. I'm going to go back. So he's a C4 quadriplegic. He's paralyzed from his shoulders down. He can't use his hands. He's 24/7 in either a motorized chair or a large shower chair. So this is not a really your typical wheelchair. It's a large, several hundred-pound chair. He needs access that's much more of access than some places claim. There are these accessible places that we have looked at that he could not get in. So it's very difficult to find a place where for him to, he needs a bathroom and for him to live. We are building something that would allow him to live with us. We found a couple places. This is the second place. We have moved once already, where he could more or less live, but we want to be together. We can't, I mean, this is not sustainable. We can't afford it, and it's not sustainable. It's considerable stress on that we are under as a result of the situation. So we have gone to his physical and occupational therapists. We have talked to doctors at the Spalding Rehabilitation Hospital, and we got recommendations for what would solve the situation if we could build it. We have gone to an architect, asked, can we build something that will look like the origin, that will be consistent with the original house? Could we, but that would meet certain criteria that we got from these professionals, and they came back with drawings and they said, but you have to go and you have to see if you can get a permit from the city. You're violating various
the FAR
regulations,
right.
And so we are here to basically.
Well, we're here to get the special permit, and also to say that this is not an addition as an accessory apartment. This is an addition for living space for our son, and it's specifically designed for his use for a bedroom, a specially fitted bathroom and living room and workspace for him, because he does, and he is able to, thank God, he's able to speak, and breathe. And he actually can create music and works collaboratively with a group in LA using a sip and puff apparatus. For those of you who are familiar or not familiar with it, it's just a piece that he can put his mouth against and operate the computer. And so he has a special desk was created for him that can surround him. It's extremely large, that can have his computer screen, and so that he can drive into that space and be able to use it and communicate with other people. And the space design needs to accommodate a Hoyer lift, as Zdenek said, his electric power wheelchair, his bathroom wheelchair, and the bathroom is specially fitted to accommodate the size of everything and the maneuverability that's required to bathe him and care for his other bodily needs. And there's also storage for his extensive medical supplies and door widths that allow him to go from one room to the other in the living space with the floors have to be very, very smooth so that he can, there's no thresholds. And it being on the first floor for safety for him and access for him to be able to go outside during the summer months and get some fresh air, and also for easy access for medical emergencies, which over the past couple of years have been quite a number. So he has to be able to be taken out by wheelchair in those situations. And the space needs to be climate and air quality controlled for temperature and for breathing, so there's no dust due to his limited lung capacity. And also, most importantly, it's for a space for quality of life and enjoyment and fulfillment of
Thank you.
his passion.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, anybody from the public wish to speak on this? Please come to the microphone. Miss McCartney, am I correct? Nice to see you after all these years.
It is. So we are the abutters that you could see as you face the house to the left. And, you know, we're very, very sorry for what happened to Lucas. I think you know I had a sister who had Huntington's disease and for 10 years was a member of my family while her life deteriorated. She was confined to a wheelchair. She had full-time care. I totally get how difficult this is on a family. But we're very concerned about the effect the construction is going to have on our property. Prior to us buying our house, basically the whole backyard was paved, and we have not been able to afford to have it undone or whatever. As it exists now, we can't use our garage because the previous owners had built like a brick dam there, because at the land use hearing, someone from the neighborhood commented that our house is uphill from Linda and Stenek's house. Well, in fact, the front of our house is uphill, but our garage is underneath. So the water flows down into our garage, and we've had flooding over the 15 years we've lived there, and with climate change, it's getting worse and worse. There are drains in front of the garage. We don't know when they were put in, how they were put in, or where they go, but we're very, very concerned that this additional impervious pavement and impervious structures on the site is going to have a negative effect on us. In addition, as you know, I work in affordable housing, and we are building all the time and have a lot of engineers on site. And I was talking to the gentleman who sits next to me about this, and he said, you know, have they done any soil testing? Do they know how deep they're going to have to go on the foundation? Our foundation is 13 feet from where this foundation is going to be dug, and it's a old fieldstone foundation. It's since been reinforced. It was reinforced before we bought the house with concrete. But I'm just concerned. I know what happens when you dig a hole. Everything slides. And no one has talked to us about any mitigation that's going to be done, about how they're going to get the equipment in to dig this. What you didn't see in the pictures that planning showed is, yes, the addition is behind that landscaping, but all that landscaping has to go. So the equipment is going to have to come right down the side of our driveway. And I gotta believe it's heavy equipment to dig a basement. I don't think they're planning to dig it by hand. So I have a lot of concern about that. In addition, at the, what was it? The first one was land use, the hearing you were at? Last hearing.
ZBA, Zoning Board of Appeals. Yeah.
Former Alderman Lipset suggested, the other concern we had was, with this addition on the house, it's going to be very easy to convert it to an accessory apartment. It's a big house to begin with. There are two families that are much smaller. There's no parking on site. They have 2 cars of cobblestone parked in the front yard. So if they were to, not necessarily them, but the next owners come in and say, well, this is a perfect accessory apartment, 800 square feet, is a 2-bedroom apartment. There would be no parking, and we have parking restrictions in our neighborhood. You can't park on the street during the day for more than 2 hours, or obviously overnight. And so none of this has been addressed with us. You know, the first time we heard about it, they handed us a letter and said, here, sign this and send it in support. And it might have been nice if somebody had just sat down with us and said, look, this is what we're doing, and, you know, do you have some concerns, or there things we can do to address this before we get to the city?
Okay, Ms. McCartney, and I will ask Mr. Gleba as well. ZBA did put a condition on this that it would not be used for an accessory apartment. Is that correct, Mr. Gleba?
So I don't believe that. I was not at that meeting, and I don't believe that decision has been finalized, but I have heard that from more than one source.
I think I remember that to be true, correct? So that box has already been
Well,
checked.
Brooke had said a deed restriction, so not just them, but going forward, it couldn't be converted to an accessory apartment. I think was what she said, and I tried to find the minutes, but they haven't been published yet. But that is what she said at the meeting, that there be a deed restriction placed that would prohibit an accessory apartment from being included on this site.
That's what the ZBA did, and that's what they're going to do. That's taken care of.
Okay, but I can't read, when will I have an opportunity to read it? Do you know?
Excuse me?
Can I read the minutes? I've been looking for the minutes online, and they're not available. And when you listen to the recording, it says exactly what I said Brooke said.
Okay, you've listened to the recording?
Yeah, I was at the meeting.
Okay, the recording is as good as minutes on paper.
Okay.
Okay?
So if I say, and in terms of water?
I'm going to tell you about that. The water issue is not an issue for this committee because they will not get their special permit without sign-off from engineering.
Okay.
And engineering is going to make sure that based on this addition, all water that lands on that lot is retained on that lot. Now, as for construction equipment that comes on their driveway to come and build this,
Well, they don't have a driveway. It will come on their lawn.
it'll come
our
on their property. That's nobody's concern really. As long as they keep their equipment on their site, they're doing everything correct. And I understand you have an old foundation, but we cannot not allow people to exercise their rights and ownership of real estate, as you know, because of potentially what could happen. So I'm sorry, but on those 2 points, they really don't.
Can I just ask a question in terms of setback? There's going to be a full basement and a bulkhead basement door, which comes closer to the property line than the setback. That's obviously not included in setback.
Mr. Gleba is one of the reasons why they're in front of us now for relief of that setback?
No, it's not.
It is not.
That was I believe if anything that would have been approved by the ZBA.
That is a ZBA situation, isn't it? Yeah.
And
But it wasn't
maybe
a,
she's referring to the window well that
no, no, no,
is-
I'm not referring, I'm referring to the bulkhead entrance to the basement.
At the rear?
It's
At
in
the rear of the
rear.
property?
Well, the plan that we saw, it was on it was as you face the house to the left. Can we see that plan?
Mr. Glebe, can you put it back up? Ms. Wewell, are you taking a look at that?
Yeah, I'm working on pulling that up.
Okay.
Sure. Looks like Michael has it.
Okay, so it's a window well. It's a basement window well. I thought it was the bulkhead entrance.
No. Okay.
So that doesn't have to be within the set, that can be inside the setback.
Believe that's a building code question, but my understanding it's a life safety thing. So I don't have that knowledge, but I've sort of heard that it could be a building code issue and allowed.
Okay.
I
Not for
don't
us.
think it's considered part of the structure.
Okay,
Thank you. Okay, anybody else from the public before we go to the committee?
Counselor Lipoff, there is a person in the.
Catherine Barton.
Yes, hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you for letting me speak. My name is Catherine Barton. I live at 165 Oakley Road in Newton, which is the next street over from Linda and Stanek. I wanted to express my support for the project as someone that has lived in this neighborhood for 32 years. I know the fabric of the neighborhood and know the style of all the homes. I've probably been in most of them. I know who has accessory apartments already and who doesn't. And I know this situation of this house. I can see it from my house, and based on the plans that I see, I don't see how it could have any negative impact whatsoever on the neighborhood. I also feel that the reason behind this building is absolutely what we as a community should be focusing on to support people in need, people that want to remain together as a family. And that's what really our neighborhood is about. And I do understand that there are physical construction issues that may present themselves. I understand, as you know, direct abutters, that there'd be concerns. But as an engineer, I know that there can be adjustments made to almost anything that can be built. So if, like you said, that engineering has to ultimately approve this, so I'm confident that these types of issues could be addressed. But I just wanted to speak as a member of the neighborhood that I put my support, my family's support behind this project 100%.
Thank you very much. Councillor Bowman.
Sorry, thank you very much, Mr. Chair. So I'm going to fully align my comments with those of Ms. Barton. I think it's incredibly important that we have rules, but that we have the ability to discretion, and that's why we have special permits in order to accommodate the special needs that we have in our community. And I think the only thing that I think is a shame about this is they only wish for the family. I know I can only imagine how difficult it is to stand up, in public to ask for something that, it's right. It's a right to have housing that works for you and that meets your physical needs. And I only wish that you weren't required to come here, that you simply could have picked up the phone and called and told the city what you needed, and somebody sent you back paper and said, yeah, this looks great, let's go. So maybe we'll get there someday in that, but I wish, I fully support this project, and I hope my fellow councilors do as well.
Thank you, Councillor Bowman. Councillor Kelly?
Thank you. I'm very glad, actually, that Councillor Bowman preceded me. First of all, I'd like to thank both the neighbors who showed up in person and on the Zoom call to speak. It's really important to hear from people, and I appreciate both their perspectives. I'm also very glad that Chair Lipoff addressed the drainage to the abutters issue, because I understand what a concern that can be. And I'm glad to know that, we know this, but I'm glad you educated everyone else that the engineering department reviews plans, and all water will have to remain on the site and should not impact you. So I'm grateful for that. I think that this project, not only was the story, your personal story, very compelling for me, but beyond the fact of that, because we don't make decisions based on personal stories, what we do want to do, though, here in Newton is make it be welcoming for everyone, and to have housing that could suit everyone's needs, including accessibility issues. So I think, despite the very difficult family situation, I very much admire you trying to reunite your family and bring your son home, and that means a lot to me. Even if it weren't that story, particularly with that son, I think this is something with the impact that is negligible and with the benefit that is so great that we should do as much of this as we can. And I appreciate you coming forward with this, and I will definitely be voting in favor of it.
Councillor Greenberg?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I can only imagine the difficulties this family has had to face, and I'm just so happy that you were able to find a workable and feasible solution to reunite your family and to find the support and autonomy that your son needs in this space. And I just wish you all the best, and I fully support this, and I move to close the public hearing and move approval.
Okay, Councillor Markowitz?
Thank you, Chair. I just had a question. I also support this. What exactly was the ZBA's requirement on this one? Was it just, there were a number of things listed there, but I would believe it was just the rear setback that they needed to weigh in on. But again, just this technical clarification for me.
I believe it was the rear setback and the open space.
It's interesting, the open space, I didn't think that was something the ZBA needed to look at. I thought that fell within the confines of the special permits. That's why I asked the question. I would just like to understand that, just for reference.
Only if it's non-conforming already, someone could get a special permit to further reduce it if it were already under the allowed, but they were complying, so a variance was needed. You can't.
Okay, got it. Understand the question. Okay, thank you. I'm all set, Chair. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We often say on this committee, we look at the real estate as if it's empty and don't take the story into account. And that's exactly what process we followed by going to the ZBA, by looking for that relief, by coming here for this relief. I find the construction and the asks to be reasonable, and align myself with how people feel about your story as well. So for all of that, I'll be voting in favor as well. We have a motion to close the public hearing by Councilor Greenberg. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Public hearing is closed. We have a motion to approve. Can we take a look at a council order?
Hope you see the findings. As shown, it's basically saying that the proposed expanded dwelling with the increased FAR is consistent with and not in derogation of size, scale, and design of other structures in the neighborhood, given its modest height, which is subordinate to the existing portions of the dwelling, and has limited visibility from nearby properties and/or public rights of way. The second, for the extending the nonconformity, it would not be more substantially more detrimental than the existing non-conforming dwelling is to the neighborhood, again, given its modest height, subordinate to the existing portions of the dwelling, and limited visibility from nearby properties and or public rights of way. And the last is a finding related to granting the requested special permit relief as a reasonable accommodation under the provisions of Title II of the ADA, so as to provide flexibility in the application of land use and zoning regulations necessary to eliminate barriers to housing opportunities to individuals with disabilities. Those are the findings and the conditions. Standard plan referencing, building permit, and CO.
Thank you very much. We have a motion to approve. Please call the roll, Mr. Clerk.
Counselor Bowman,
Aye.
Counselor Downs, Counselor Greenberg,
Aye.
Counselor Kelly,
Aye.
Counselor Laredo, Counselor Lipoff,
Aye.
Counselor Lucas,
Aye.
Counselor Markowitz.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you very much. Good luck with your project. All right, take care. All right, the next item, 201-23, Devlin Scott and New City Church, HAEMEE Inc. Request for an administrative site plan review to allow religious use and a special permit to allow a restaurant with more than 50 seats and associated parking waivers at 1173, 1177 Walnut Street. We will hear from Ms. Kemet first.
Okay. Great. So this is petition number 201-23 at 1173, 1177 Walnut Street. The petitioner is proposing to convert the basement unit of the building and use it as a church with classroom space and to create a 72-seat cafe, which would be open to the public. The proposed uses require administrative site plan review for a religious institution and special permit relief for a cafe with over 50 seats and a waiver of 64 parking stalls. Religious uses are protected under state law and typically fall under the administrative site plan review, that process subject to a Dover waiver, which is issued by the Commissioner of the Inspectional Services Department. In this case, the zoning ordinance requires a special permit for religious institutions that do not meet the parking requirements in the ordinance. So this petition is before the City Council because it does need that parking relief. In reviewing this request, the council should consider whether the site in BU1 is an appropriate location for the requested parking waivers and restaurant with over 50 seats, if the requested waivers will not adversely affect the neighborhood, if the requested parking waivers will not create a nuisance or serious hazard to vehicles or pedestrians, if access to the site over streets is appropriate for the types and number of vehicles involved, and if literal compliance with the required amount of parking is impracticable, or that such an exception would be in the interest of the public or in the interest of safety or protection of environmental features. The site is located in Newton Highlands on the corner of Walnut Street and Floral Street. It is really right in the village center in an area with a diverse variety of uses, including commercial space, single and multifamily housing, and open space. The abutter to the west is an office building. An auto repair shop is to the east. There's a pub across Floral Street to the southeast, a mixed-use building and multi-unit residence across Walnut Street, and a two-family residence is the rear abutter. The site and parcels to the northwest and southeast are in the BU1 zone. The site directly abuts MR2 to the southwest on Floral and BU2 to the east across Walnut. And the green line has a stop right across the street and is also an abutter to the site. The site consists of a 10,921 square foot lot, which is improved with a one-story brick commercial structure. It has ground floor retail uses and a basement retail unit. And the basement space is the one that the petitioner will be renting. There's a short retaining wall and chain link fence that extends out from the side of the building toward Lincoln Street, and another located at the rear of the property by the driveway. The site has a slope down from the front to the rear of the property. Vehicular access is provided via 2 curb cuts. One is on the left here, left of the main entrance on Walnut Street, leading to a paved surface parking lot with 15 stalls. The other is on Floral Street at the rear of the property at the south corner. That also leads to the driveway and is bounded at either side by a retaining wall and the parking lot. This is the proposed floor plan for the interior use of the space. There are no new structures that are proposed as part of this petition. Most of the modifications will be internal. The petitioner proposes to establish a church in the basement tenant space of the building with a classroom space and cafe, which will be open to the public. The project needs relief for that cafe space, which will have 72 seats because restaurants with more than 50 seats require a special permit. This design includes a sanctuary with 72 seats, so that's at the far right here, and a 554 square foot classroom, which is to the bottom center. And those 2 spaces will be used concurrently. So at the same time that the sanctuary might be holding services, the classroom would be in use, and that would be primarily on Sunday mornings. The cafe space will have 38 seats in the interior space and a kitchen, which is to the top of the floor plan there. And it will have 34 unfixed outdoor seating spaces in the driveway area leading to the door from Floral Street. This is the proposed site plan. There are currently 15 parking stalls in the surface lot on the site. Altogether, for the uses proposed in this petition, 79 parking stalls are required in total. The petitioner proposes to restripe and slightly reconfigure this parking lot. So the layout will be a bit different, but the total number of stalls will remain at 15. So that requires a waiver of 64 parking stalls. The curb cuts on Floral Street and Walnut Street are going to remain the same, so access will not really be affected. One parking stall, which is the one in the lower left-hand corner here, is proposed to be converted into an accessible stall. There are currently no accessible parking stalls in the lot. So with this plan, one is proposed. We have informed the petitioner, and ISD has also informed the petitioner that that stall is not, it is not a MAAB approved accessible van stall, which we believe they will need. So that is something for the petitioner to keep in mind for the building permit, that they may need to relocate or reconfigure that parking stall. Overall, the department is believes this is an appropriate location for the project. It's right in a village center, and the site is well served by public transit, and it's in a very walkable area close to other restaurants and close to shops in Newton Highlands. 64 new parking stalls would be required without relief, and considering this is such a walkable area and it is in a village center, the department believes it's reasonable to grant a parking waiver in this to support the city's sustainability goals. That's all I have for now. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. Mr. Scott.
Hello.
Reverend
Can everyone hear me? Oh, thank you. Thank you guys so much for this opportunity to come before. I do have a small slideshow that I would love to show. Before I speak, I would love to give our architect an opportunity to speak to a couple things. His name is Glenn Knowles, and he is online.
Okay, go ahead.
Hi, my name is, can you hear me?
Yes, name and address.
My name is Glenn Knowles, architect. My office mail address is 551 Columbia Road, Boston. Pastor Scott asked me to kind of briefly introduce the building, but I gotta say Ms. Kimmett did a pretty good job. I don't have a whole lot to add to what she said, other than it's a basement tenant fit out space. The entrance is at the rear of the building, so you have to go down the site to get to the entrance. The primary use is a church. Secondary use is a cafe. The entrance, when you come into the cafe seating area, but that's also serves as the lobby for the church. So when the the church functions are happening, that area would be a lobby. We turned the old, this was formerly a bank building. And so if you look, there's a kind of trapezoidal shape in the plan that's going to be the worship space. That's the old vault. And we've also added a new children's classroom that's going to serve religious education purposes. We're removing an old non-compliant restroom and an old abandoned stair. We're adding 3 new single handicap restrooms. And we're adding a new second means of egress by utilizing an existing stair that leads up to the sidewalk. One thing I think that's important, that second means of egress is only for egress. It will not serve as an entrance from the sidewalk for the church. So in summary, as far as the building is concerned, there's really a lobby / cafe. There's a sanctuary, there's a children's classroom, and there are 3 new handicap accessible toilets, single toilets. And then as the plan showed, there's some maximum of 34 seats for the cafe outside.
Thank you very much. And that's why we've changed the way we do things around here and go to planning first to make your life easier. So you can just fill in the blanks. Just a curiosity, it's kind of cool. The vault space where the sanctuary will be, that plan we're looking at actually shows the thicker walls, doesn't it?
Yep.
That used to be literally the vault.
It's literally thick concrete with some foam and some more concrete.
Yeah.
They're about 18 inches, 16 to 18 inches thick.
Which is going to make for some good soundproofing. Absolutely. All right. Thank you very much. Anybody from the public wish to speak?
I would also.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Don't worry.
You want to speak too? Go ahead.
Yes. And is there a way to share the screen up there?
Yes, there is. Go ahead. Okay. If you've got somebody doing that, are you doing that there?
It's already connected.
Yeah, you can share screen. From your computer. Are you on Zoom?
No, I'm not. Do I need to be on Zoom?
Yeah.
Oh, see, that's something I didn't know.
There you go.
I can quickly log into Zoom. Give me a moment.
If you want to work on that, we can go to discussion and come back to you, or we can hold on and you can shut.
Sure.
If you go on to newtonma.gov,
yes.
You want to?
I should be able to pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Give me a moment.
Yeah, go ahead. Somebody help. It'll be done quicker if you go and show them how to get to the website and jump onto Zoom. She's got it.
I am, but that's on my phone. So we're go to newtonma.gov. I have to connect to internet first. I think I'm good.
Yeah, you should be, yes.
Yeah. Thank you, guys.
Is that the website?
It is loading.
Okay.
Yeah, almost there. Maybe I could show it from my phone. That might be easy.
Okay. All right. Now go to newtonma.gov.
So I have it here somewhere. I'm just gonna grab it really quick.
The agenda. You need the URL.
Yeah, I have it in my email here, so I'm just gonna grab it really quick. Thank you for your help. I appreciate it.
So far you're doing it all yourself.
Let's see the best one. Okay, let's use this one. All right. Thank you.
Just make sure you're, there you go.
I'm joining. Thank you all so much. All right, how's that?
Great. There you go.
I thought it would be a great opportunity to not only just hear just the technical side of things, because I think that's important, but this is a very creative project. And I thought it might be helpful for the committee to hear kind of the scope of its creativity, just so you kind of understand it. I know there's been some questions in preparation for this. Is it a church? Is it a cafe? Like, what exactly is it? So allow me to just kind of give an overview of what that looks like. As an organization, as a pastor, we're always looking for ways in which we can serve our community, looking for ways in which we can kind of give back. And so back in December of 2020, there was a lot going on. We were in the middle of the pandemic. There was a lot of social unrest. And so when we acquired this building in December 22, the first thought that came to our minds as a congregation is, what are we going to do with it for the benefit of our community and what's needed most in our society today? And so for us, it became more, at that moment, it became more than just a church, but it became a question of what will we do with it the other 6 days of the week? How do we do that? And so we decided to dedicate it back to the community. And so for every space in there that we would typically use for church purposes, we decided to flip it. Let's build it for community purposes, and we know that the church can use it as well. So for us, it was, instead of just a sanctuary, let's instead build a theater space for the arts community. That became our vision. And we can use it as a church space. Instead of just a lobby for a church, let's build a cafe that's a pay-what-you-can cafe to address food insecurity, and we can use it as a church's lobby. The kids area became a space for respite and play for kids with special needs specifically, and we can also use it for their community buddies who may not have those special needs. We thought, here's an opportunity for us to kind of flip something on its head in order to give our community some of the things we realized they were in need of. We saw this need from the Newton Arts community. We saw it from the Newton Community Pride. We saw it, this need brewing from Newton, the Newton Food Pantry and the Newton and the Center Street Food Pantry. We heard it from all of these different areas, and we landed on these 3 key areas that this building could address in our community. And so in order to do that best as a church, we decided to start a community development corporation called New Community, with the hopes of just trying to serve our community the best way that we can. New Community became a non-religious nonprofit in order to serve our community without the confusion of what might happen with the religious pieces of it. Those 2 entities, New City Church and New Community, became our partners in trying to serve our community the best way that we can. And so what came as a vision of that was a space at 1175 Walnut Street that would have multi-use and purpose. Without building anything new or creating any problems, it was reusing a space that was just simply a basement and unused otherwise. We thought that was a smart footprint decision, but we wasn't creating more clutter or more problems, but we were celebrating a community center by using all of the resources that were already there. So for us, it became about what would be those 3 things. The cafe, a made new cafe, is a build what you can or pay what you can cafe, serving people of all economic means and community and bridging the gap of food insecurity in our community. We do not have a place in Newton that gives away hot food meals to those who are in need or creates a place of celebration and dignity for people to have meals. All of those involved in food insecurity has attested to the fact that this is the next piece that completes or somehow expands the very great work we're already doing in our community. We also thought it would be great to create this play space that was inclusive for children with disabilities and children of all abilities, designed with the sensory station, equipment, and activities to support a kind, mindful, and accommodating space for families and kids. We thought a theater space that is open to the public would also be helpful. What came from that, and I would like to show some pictures, is how we would outline the space. We thought, let's first do something with a back driveway that could be more sightly for a downtown space, a village center, and create it to be more of a patio that would give a little bit more life behind the building. Here's the picture enlarged for all of you. These are drawings from our architects to help and create the space. These have been updated. Some of them have changed, so you might see some things you didn't see in the drawing, but just know that the current drawings are where we are today. We also thought this cafe would be great, taking a space that simply was a basement with pale walls and concrete floors, and giving it some new life that would serve our community in a beautiful way. Here's an enlarged photo of that as well, complete with all of the specs and things that makes it fun that this is happening in a vault, an old bank vault. I love what our architects have come up with some of these fun things. And then finally, a community space for the arts community that can be used for the arts community, taking an old basement space with the really thick 18-inch walls of concrete and giving it some more purpose where it could serve with all of the bells and whistles of live streaming and performance spaces and meeting spaces that our community uses and could use. There's a larger rendering of it as well. Finally, there was a play space. The play space is taking just an old room that exists there and bringing new life to it for our community and the kids in the community to have a place of respite and play and fun. Again, taking what the church needs and giving it access to the community for those purposes as well. So 1175 Walnut Street is more than its parking needs. It's all of these other things that bring something exciting into a village center. And I know that if this committee waives the parking stalls that are needed in a very walkable area, as has been mentioned, an area that has access by public transit, an area that is also hopefully in the works for various zoning, things that will make it bikeable, and all of those wonderful things, we will have a very exciting village center with this committee's support. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, how many years ago did you and I walk through that space?
2.5 years ago.
2.5 years ago. And the vision that you had just came to light with those renderings. So you definitely had some vision back then. You stuck to it. Okay, let's hear from the community. Can we get the screen back? Can you stop sharing?
I'm working on it.
Thank you. Elena November.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, thanks for the time. My name is Ilana November, and I am a Newton resident. And I am completely in support of the New City Church and their plan for Walnut Street and Newton Highlands. I want to share a quick anecdote about the first time that I met Reverend Scott. He had asked me to speak on a panel right when New City Church was trying to form and take roots in Newton. And as a Jewish person meeting an evangelical minister, I went into that meeting with curiosity and an open heart and a whole lot of skepticism of whether or not we were going to share a similar worldview. And quite honestly, I left that meeting with the deepest respect for Reverend Scott and affection for him, his family, and what he's trying to do in Newton. I support this project because I think that it will bring 4 incredibly important and innovative pieces to our community. I think one, it will create a space for the New City Church so that it has a permanent home in Newton and it to be in our community forevermore. I think Reverend Scott and the community are a gift to our community, and we want to make sure that they have pillars here that they can go to. I also think that the cafe and the Black Box Theater and the play space are just incredibly innovative and necessary for our community, and we don't have anything like any of that. So I just wanted to share my unconditional and complete support for this project. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I can't argue with any of that. The counselors will be looking at the structural issues, the parking, all of that other stuff as well. I don't think anybody has anything negative to say about what you're doing, because it's all admirable and our community needs it and thanks you. But we have to talk about our rules and regulations. Thank you very much for your comments. Gloria Gavris.
Hi, everyone. I am Gloria Gavris, 21 Monadnock Road in Ward 7. And I want to echo really everything that Elaine and November said. I too met Reverend Scott a few years ago. He welcomed me down to his space as a volunteer chair of Newton Community Pride, another Newton nonprofit. Over the past couple of years, I have collaborated with Reverend Scott on several programs. And as you can see, he and New City Church and all that he does for the community is a tremendous resource. He's extremely thoughtful in his approach to this property and to his neighbors and to what, as a community member, he can offer really to the whole community as a whole. And he brings with it a pure sense of inclusivity and really is value driven in terms of what he wants to offer. Selfishly, on behalf of Newton Community Pride, we're thrilled that there's another opportunity for the arts community to have a space in his Black Box Theater for our creatives to explore opportunity there. But more than that, I think New City Church and what he offers to both that particular village center, but really for Newton as a whole, is really terrific. And I support everything that he's doing. And as you've said, the city will go through the various relief opportunities that are for him, but I support wholeheartedly this project.
Thank you, Ms. Gavris. Appreciate it. Nathaniel Lichten.
Thank you. Nathaniel Lichten, 53 Pinecrest Road. I am the Vice President of the Newton Highlands Neighborhood Area Council. So Reverend Scott came before our area council quite a while ago with his proposal, and it got tremendous reviews. Everyone was fully in support of the proposal, and we think it will be a great addition to the Newton Highlands neighborhood, and we encourage you, I'm speaking personally, I encourage you to approve his requested waivers. I know that parking lot well. It is never full or even anywhere close to being full, the 15 space parking lot. We are a very walkable city with a lot of public transit. We've got the Green Line, we've got two bus lines within a block of the site. We've got public private shuttles that the public can use, including one going down to Northland that's going to be coming in, one going to the business park. And so I don't worry at all about the parking situation at the site. I think this will be a great addition and has no negative drawbacks for our community. So
thank you.
I hope you support this project. Thank you.
Thanks for your comments, Mr. Lichten. Tony LaGalbo.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Tony LaGalbo, 55 Herrick Road, Newton Center. And I issued a statement of support sent to the council just 20 minutes before the start of your meeting this evening. So I suspect you have not seen it or read it. But it's a statement of support of the petitioner on behalf of the Foundation for Racial, Ethnic, and Religious Harmony, and in my capacity as president of the Harmony Foundation. For full disclosure, I'm sure many of you are aware, Reverend Scott is a member of the Harmony Foundation board. Mr. Chair, I can read the letter. It's 3 paragraphs, if that's appropriate, if you desire.
If you'd like to, we do have it, but
sure.
Whatever you'd like.
Sure, let me read it quickly. This letter is submitted in support of the petitioner under item 201-23 on this evening's agenda as a community-oriented reuse of the basement space at 1177 Walnut Street, Newton Highlands. While the primary use of this space is for New City Church, the project has been creatively imagined as a community resource. The Harmony Foundation has supported this initiative in various ways over the past several years of its conceptualization and development, including with small grants for community activities using the space, among them the Indigenous Thanksgiving Day events, and for a convening of the Harmony Foundation's advisory board. The Harmony Foundation believes that this reuse of an existing building space has the strong likelihood of making an important continuing contribution to the Newton community at large, and that it merits the support of the City Council with respect to necessary permitting. Sincerely, thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Legalbo. Phil Dawes.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Phil Dawes. I'm a resident of Newton at 12 Page Road in Newtonville, and someone involved in the arts community, as a board member of Newton Community Pride and also the Hyde Center. I echo Gloria Garvis's sentiments about Reverend Scott's leadership in our community. I've had the distinct pleasure of working with him on inaugural events supporting Juneteenth, as well as Black History Month. And I'm here in support of the project as it brings space for the arts community. And I'd urge that the committee give special permit as the project is favored by the community and the parking concerns are addressed as spelled out by the planning committee. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Amy Wayne.
Hi, I'm Amy Wayne at 1616 Center Street, and I'm also on the Newton Highlands Neighborhood Area Council. And I was at the presentation that Nathaniel Lichten was referring to, and I agree with everything that Nathaniel said, and I support this project.
Thank you, Ms. Wayne. And Nancy Zollers.
Thank you, Chair Lipoff. I'm Nancy Zollers, 154 Oliver Road. I would associate myself with all of the comments made in support of this project in general. But my suspicion is that the concern is about the number of parking places, and that for 2.5 years, almost everyone on the council has been aware of the vision that Reverend Scott had about this space. I want to encourage you to allow the special permit to go forward without the required parking. And Chairman Lipoff, I want to suggest that what I've heard on zoning and planning and other land use meetings in the last couple of years is, as a community, we're really changing about our parking values. And I think this project should reflect the change. In addition, I'm not a member of this new city church that will be meeting in this new community space, but I am a member of a church in which parking has held up progress. And I'm a member of a Newton coalition of churches and synagogues, many of whom have been harmed by old parking standards and permits that need to be revised, and land use could take the lead on thinking about parking very differently now. So as a good representation of the new views on parking in Newton, I recommend that the parking be, that the parking available be allowed and not the number that would ordinarily be required. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Zollers. And I will say that your comments on parking are timely. We are all talking about it. We all feel, I think most of us feel the same way you do, that it's antiquated, that it doesn't meet most of what we're doing anymore. Times change, and I think our parking regulations need to change along with it, and it is time. So well taken, thank you. Okay, we're going to take it into council now. Councillor Kelly.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I agree with all of the comments that were made, starting with Reverend Scott and others, about the importance of this kind of shared community use plus church use. I love that. I love the uses. I love using a basement vault for this. I think it's visionary and wonderful, and I have no problem myself with, as has been mentioned, changing the way we think about parking spots. I think Nathaniel Lichten mentioned it first, but you're in a prime location here, and I have no problem with the waivers. I do have some very specific questions just to understand it better, because I couldn't tell between the plans we saw earlier and what your architect talked about and what you then showed us some pictures. If perhaps between the architect and you, Reverend Scott, or the city, they could explain this or show it to me a little better. The cafe is open to the public every day, or what are the hours of that? Is that Monday through Sunday, or what?
They're weekend hours.
A weekend?
Yeah, and working with the various food insecurity players in the community, including, there's a council of us, including the hospital, Newton Wellesley Hospital, and so many others in the community. We've identified that the gap for food insecure people being able to have what they need is weekends.
Okay.
Between the school lunches that are provided and various services throughout the week, there's nothing happening on the weekend, and we feel like we can close that gap.
Good to understand. The other thing I'll just say to that is...
Excuse me 1 second, just on the heels of that. Is there anything going on Monday through Friday at the space?
No, besides the other businesses in the community. No, unless we use it for the various purposes that we're talking about, it being used for the public's sake, yeah.
But typically, it's going to be used on the weekends.
Typically on the weekends,
And I appreciate you identifying the weekends as the time when particularly the meals are necessary. I'll just add, besides the schools providing lunches and hot lunches to students, the senior center does provide hot meals to seniors, but I don't think that happens on the weekend. I think that might be, so there's a combination, but anyway, I thank you for clarifying that. Another question, I'm just curious about what your current population, your congregation membership is. Are there numbers that are involved now, and what do you anticipate? Are you thinking that this will draw more people to you, hopefully? And like, what do those numbers look like?
Sure. We're currently a 5-year-old church, 3 of those years being COVID, right? So we're very young, toddler age church. And we have about 30 people currently.
Okay.
Of course, it is always our desire to see growth. As a best practice for churches in my denomination and other kind of Christian emphasis, as the church grows, you have a benchmark of a 75% seating cap. Once you see 75% of your seating covered, you go to another service, another time. And so you add a service to it to maintain the space you need and to handle the crowds.
So currently you do one service.
Currently we're at one service.
And if you expand, which would be wonderful, you might
great.
offer to in terms of saying,
more,
okay.
yeah.
So my questions were about trying to understand. At first I thought the outdoor seating looked like it was in the spot where the cleaners have that parking now, but no, it's all around back?
All around the back, yeah.
It's not in the current parking spot, which was showed as being restriped?
Yes, we're restriping the parking space to make it to code for our purposes of religious gathering space and assembly space, and adding a space for handicap parking.
Which you'll probably move closer to the entrance, or according to the discussions you're having with the city.
Exactly.
Okay.
Our architect will speak to that a little bit as well. We started drawings to solve that. They just didn't get in your packet in time.
So you're not losing any of those parking spaces for the outdoor seating. The outdoor seating will be probably weather conditional in the rear.
Exactly. And the outdoor seating is not a part of a parking lot. It is
I had misunderstood
a driveway of sort behind the building. Yeah.
I thought it was the other way, which I appreciate you clarifying that for me. So that's it for me. That I was asking about the current population, and where is the secondary means of egress that goes up an outside stairway? Was that identified on a plan? I couldn't quite tell. It heads towards a sidewalk?
It heads to the sidewalk on Walnut Street. If you're looking at the front of the building, it will come out just right of the entrance of the nail salon, of Coco Nail Salon.
Oh, to the right.
To the right. There's a stairwell that already exists there. If you've ever been into Coco Nail Salon, they have the big, giant vault door in their space that leads down to our space. Obviously, that door is decommissioned. We can't use that. We will break out of the front of the building for an egress door.
Not where I was imagining it would be located, but as long as you have one, I'm happy, and now I can picture it, and thank you very much for answering my very petty questions.
Of course.
Thank you. Councilor Greenberg.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is such an exciting project. I'm in full support of this, and I hope you become so successful that you expand into Nonantum. I welcome you into Nonantum quickly. So I really don't have any concerns. When I look at a special permit project, I try to weigh the benefits, the public benefits with the waivers being asked, and the public benefit of this project way outweighs the relief needed. So I support this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Greenberg.
Councilor Lucas.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I had questions about the how many days in a week it was going to be open, but it's just weekends. But what were the hours of operations of the cafe? The hours of operation, hours.
So the hours of operation are projected to be a dinner time on Friday, breakfast, lunch, dinner on Saturday, lunch, dinner on Sunday.
Got it. Okay, thanks. And I understand, well, I now understand that the site was originally created for a bank. So, but what is the current use or prior use to the site?
The prior use of the space that we're in, which is the lower unit, I believe was someone who just rented it for like office space. Honestly, I think it was band rehearsal or something like that.
Okay.
The owners of the conservatory in Newton Highlands used to rent the space.
Okay, so it wasn't a high-intensity site.
No,
I wouldn't describe it as
we're bringing a lot of new life to the space.
A lot of intensity, a lot of new life. I don't know, you won't have the answer to this question, but if planning can answer this, do you know if that prior use was controlled with a special permit?
I don't believe so.
Okay, all right, thanks. And I guess one more question. When do you plan to open?
When he gets his approval.
Exactly, that's fair. Sometime after this meeting, right? I don't.
He's got some construction.
I would love for it to happen soon, but you know, this first step is up to you guys.
Sooner rather than later, okay?
Yeah. Great, yeah.
Councilor Albright, President Albright.
I just want to say that this is providing a need for a community that is unserved in this city. And I think it's a fabulous idea. And the thing that I was most worried about was that, not lately, but we used to be able to go to O'Hara's after our meetings and have a drink after a meeting, and
Sure.
we used that parking lot
Sure.
because it was, it was a good place to park. And so now that I know you're going to be using it on the weekends, I don't even have to worry about
You don't have
that.
to worry, yeah. Free to park there, why not?
Can we still park in your parking lot?
You're always welcome, President Albright.
Thank you. So I'm really looking forward to have this open in Newton. Thank you very much for doing it.
Of course.
Thank you. Ms. Wayne, can you put your hand down, please? Councilor Bowman.
Thank you very much. So, this is my ward, Ward 6. I've heard from the community and from my fellow councilors, but also because I see it as, it's revitalizing an otherwise empty space. We have a space, it's fitting in a nice niche as far as its use. And I just think it's supporting members of the community, it's supporting more people coming to the village center, and most likely at a sort of off-peak time. And I just think it's great. I think it's fabulous. And I think it will beautify. I don't think we saw as many of those photos today, but I had seen previous renderings of just, enlivening this outdoor space in the back. Just really takes what looks like today a sort of abandoned, sad back of a building and creates something special. So I'm a strong supporter of this. Everybody knows on the council knows how I feel about parking minimums. I think it's long past time that we got rid of them. And I'm a strong supporter of this, and I will be happy to close the public hearing and move approval for this item at the appropriate time. Thank you.
We can't do that yet because we still have another Ward 6 counselor here who would like to opine. Counselor Danberg.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. For all the reasons that we have heard from the speakers, I enthusiastically support this project. It's a really needed, one-of-a-kind type of use, adding to the fabric of Newton Highlands. It's exactly what the city is trying to encourage, so that we will have more activity in our villages, and this is serving the needs of an underused group of people also that we greatly appreciate. The pay-as-you-go cafe, the Black Box Theater that will add space for much needed space for our cultural uses. And it's near public transportation. You can walk from affordable housing. It's on our bike lanes. You're using an old bank vault in a wonderful way. You are presenting a socially and environmentally responsible and friendly use for this building. And I do hope that New City Church will expand. We welcome you with open arms to the Highlands, and as Councilor Greenberg has said, well, we'd love to see you in all of our villages. You are also making this space much safer. You're putting in accessible bathrooms, taking out the old and refurbishing the bathrooms so that they're accessible to everyone. I love the idea of your outdoor seating, and I will hold it there and just say I enthusiastically, along with everyone else, support this project. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. So nobody's got a problem with the parking, and it is on public transportation. It's walkable. The intensity of mostly on the weekends fits in. The creativity of this space and what you're doing. I see, I have to say that it's pretty exciting. Let me ask you this. The Black Box space, it'll be your sanctuary. Do you envision renting that space out to small theatrical programs to come and do plays?
We envision a lot of really cool ideas about bringing new life to the area, including people renting out the space for shows, including us hosting talks. We have ideas about bringing a TEDx Newton talk to the idea to just get new ideas, dinner theater, different things that is just creating so much for community. But that's to come in the future.
Okay, yeah. So I can keep my dream alive of playing Pippin or Jean Valjean eventually?
Got it.
Okay, thank you. All right. So we are going to close the public hearing, and that was from Councilor Bowman. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Public hearing is closed. We have a motion to approve by Councilor Bowman. Can we take a look at a council order?
Yes. So for findings, we have 1, the site is an appropriate location for the proposed restaurant with 72 seats and 64 stall parking waiver because it is located in a village center with access to public transit and the area has a diverse mix of uses. 2, the proposed restaurant and parking waiver will not adversely affect the neighborhood because the site is in a walkable area that is close to public transit options. 3, there will not be a nuisance to vehicles or pedestrians because the existing curb cuts and driveway access will be maintained. 4, access to the site over streets is appropriate for the types and number of vehicles involved. And 5, a waiver of 64 parking stalls is in the public interest because constructing 64 additional parking stalls would require a substantial increase in impervious paving on the site, and the site is within a village center with access to public transit. And for conditions, it would just be plan referencing and standard building permit conditions and occupancy.
Okay, we have a motion to approve. Can we please call the roll?
Counselor Bowman,
Aye.
Counselor Downs, Counselor Greenberg,
Aye.
Counselor Kelly,
Aye.
Counselor Laredo, Counselor Lipoff,
Aye.
Counselor Lucas,
Aye.
Counselor Markowitz.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Good luck with your
Thank you all
project.
so much. Really appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
All right, have a good one. Okay, last item of the night, 204-23, Mildred McMullen, trustee of Millmac Trust, request to allow a drive-in business and associated parking waivers to allow a freestanding sign and to allow oversized directional signs at 940 Boylston Street. Miss Sandoval,
Yes, let me just share my screen.
okay?
Okay, this is petition number 204-23 for 940 Boylston Street, that is Route 9. The zoning relief is to allow the existing Dunkin' Donuts with sit-down service to be converted to a drive-through restaurant. It is also a request for relief to waive perimeter screening requirements, waive outdoor lighting requirements, to allow 2 freestanding signs and 2 principal signs, and to allow oversized directional signs. This petition was previously heard in 2021 and 2022, but the petitioner withdrew their application both times. When reviewing this request, the council should consider whether the site in a business use 2 zoning district is an appropriate location for the proposed drive-in business, 1 freestanding sign and 2 principal signs. The proposed drive-in business will adversely affect the neighborhood. The proposed drive-in business as designed will create a nuisance or serious hazard to vehicles or pedestrians. Access to the site over streets is appropriate for the types and numbers of vehicles involved. Literal compliance with the perimeter landscaping requirements for parking facilities is impracticable due to the nature of the use or the location, size, width, depth, shape, or grade of the lot, or that exceptions to one or more of said requirements would be in the public interest or in the interest of safety or protection of environmental features. Literal compliance with the outdoor lighting requirements for parking facilities is impracticable due to the nature of the use or the location, size, width, depth, or grade of the lot, or that exceptions would be in the public interest or in the interest of safety or protection of environmental features. The proposed exceptions to the sign ordinance should be permitted and are appropriate due to the nature of the use of the premises, the architecture of the building, or their location with reference to the street is such that such exceptions are in the public interest. So this is an aerial map with the locations shown in blue of the Dunkin' Donuts on Route 9. It is adjacent to commercial and auto-oriented uses on Route 9, and Ramsdale Street is just to the south. And these are located in the Business Use 2 zoning district. Next to the Dunkin' Donuts is an office building and a gas station. And to the north of Route 9 are residences, multifamily residences in the multi-residence 1 zoning district. Route 9 itself is a busy 4-lane state road with 2 lanes in each direction. The road has a fence divider in the middle. The nearest public transit is the MBTA bus line on Winchester Street to the east. So this is showing the existing conditions. The restaurant is set quite far back from the street, about 48 feet from the front property line. And it is surrounded by 23 parking stalls. The main access is on Boylston Street on Route 9, but there is also access from Ramsdale Street from the south. The building is also set quite close to the eastern property line. And this is the area of the building that would be demolished to make way for the drive-through on that side of the building. So this is the proposed site plan. You can see the main entrance is on the west side of the property, and it loops around the property to the rear. There is a drive-through window located on the eastern side of the property, and that there would be an exit only exit and at the east side of the property. So there are 14 stalls that would be eliminated to make way for the drive-in business, but there is still available parking that would meet the zoning requirements. So there is no zoning parking waiver required. There have been a few changes since you probably last saw this site plan last year. The drive-through entrance has been modified to provide a more curved entry. There has been additional landscaping proposed, which has been a welcome addition. There is also an added 5-foot pedestrian crosswalk in the rear of the property across, and it's pointed out here, across the drive-through aisle. There's the petitioner had also modified the pedestrian crosswalk at the front of the property and widened it from 5 feet to 8 feet wide. And that was based on comments that we had from our peer reviewer, which they modified the site plan last week to enhance the accessibility of that crosswalk. And there are some issues with the 5 foot wide crosswalk at the rear that I'll describe later. So this is just some photos of the area. You can see the business is located here. It's surrounded by pavement. There's basically no landscaping and surrounded by parking. This on the left side is the view from Route 9 as you're coming down the sidewalk. So there is an existing sidewalk on Route 9. You can see that the existing office building is set pretty close to the front property line there. So the view of the building is a bit obscured. The other photo is just showing Ramsdale Street as you're facing Ramsdale Street from the rear of the property. So as you can see, it's very auto-oriented. It's not particularly pedestrian friendly on this side, just kind of showing the landscape as it exists right now. So we did have our peer reviewer, Beta, which is the transportation and traffic reviewer, look at the traffic, the report, and also looked at the addition of the crosswalk at the rear, just because that was something that was new that was added. They did continue to have a concern, which was noted in the last time the special permit was applied for, that there is a strong potential queue spillover on Route 9, particularly in the morning hours, and that there is no clear mitigation for that has yet been defined. They have a concern with the delivery trucks potentially making deliveries on Route 9, so they do advise that delivery trucks should be restricted to Ramsdale Street, that the snow storage area should be identified, and that the pedestrian walkway at the rear of the property across the drive-through aisle near the curb is not the best location for a pedestrian walkway, as it's not best for driver visibility, and it is not wide enough to be determined to be an accessible walkway. They also recommend additional pedestrian signage on the right side of the drive-through aisle, just to indicate to drivers that pedestrians may be crossing. And they also noted, and this was a new, something new that they noted from the last site plan was submitted, was that it would be preferable if the curbing between the driveways was extended rather than having a concrete type barrier located at the front of the property. So these are just kind of summarizing some of the outstanding information and issues that we have in the planning department regarding this proposal, the mitigation for the queue spillover on Route 9, a snow storage and removal plan, signage restricting access from Ramsdale Street to deliveries, and accessibility and location of the rear pedestrian crosswalk, and additional pedestrian signage for the drive-through aisle. So that's all I have for now.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll hear from the petitioner. I think that's Mr. Lee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good evening, members of the Land Use Committee. For the record, Lawrence Lee for the petitioner. I do have a PowerPoint presentation, if I can share my screen.
Sure.
With your permission.
Sure, go ahead.
Thank you. So I'm going to skip over certain things that maybe I don't want to duplicate Alyssa's very well prepared presentation. So in the interest of time, this is just site information. I can certainly submit the PowerPoint as part of the package after the hearing.
Sure. Yeah, we do that first, so you don't have to do a full presentation. So you
understood.
Okay.
Thank you very much. And it makes my job a little bit easier. Thank you. So this is the zone. I think this map may not have been part of the prior presentation. So this gives you a good idea of the different types of zones. This is just a quick little update on some of the things that we're asking for as a proposal. One of the things that we do want to clarify is that we are keeping the 8 seats inside the restaurant, though. So this is not a pure drive-through restaurant. The prior petitions that we had previously done were eliminating all seats. We worked very closely with the Ward 5 councilors prior to our resubmission currently, having met with them at the site and going through the various specifics of the proposed site plan. Councilor Downs is not present. I see that Councilor Humphreys is present tonight. We have been keeping in touch with him as well as Councilor Crossley on our proposal. So let's see, going forward, these are slides that I think are duplication. So the site, I think it warrants a sort of reiteration of the fact that this is a pure asphalt. There's no green space whatsoever. One of the things that I think is very, very important to note is that this current site condition allows for trucks to cut through. You can see it from here that goes to Ramsdale. There's a towing company here where there's a lot of large trucks parked, and I think there are further photos along that shows that. You can see that there's no barrier whatsoever. And this property does slope down from this point down towards Ramsdale. You can see the slope down over here. So I think that's going to be relevant as we get further in to answer some of the questions that were raised by Beta. Just further photos of Route 9, which you are all familiar with. Again, this is just another picture of Ramsdale. You'll notice that there's no sidewalk at Ramsdale. This is pertinent because one of the requests that were made prior to in the previous meetings was to add the walkway, and I'll get to that a little later. Going through some of the elevations, the building will be reduced. So the easterly side of the building will be reduced to accommodate the drive-through. These are just elevations that are all in your packet. That's the existing condition site plan that you previously saw. So I think this is, the focus of this is to just really show the layout of the existing conditions. And I'll do a side-by-side. There's a slide that I have that will show the comparisons between the two. Let me maybe jump to that. I'm going to jump to this. So I do want to highlight through this plan some of the changes that we are making. There is a retaining wall along this easterly and southerly side of the property. There's going to be a heavy-duty gate that will be installed here. The idea is to have deliveries provided through Ramsdale during non-peak hours when traffic is very light. And so that it's not disturbing any of the traffic flow or disturbing any of the pedestrian walkways, and just reducing any interference in that. This also prohibits further use, unauthorized use really, by certain folks as a cut through, which is a very, very dangerous current condition that we're going to eliminate. This will be open for emergency vehicles such as a fire truck and for delivery vehicles should they need to get access through here to get to Route 9. This part of it is the pedestrian walkway that we added as a request from one of the city councilors previously. And what I had said previously about the fact that Ramsdale does not have a sidewalk, this leads to a street. One of the comments that Beta had mentioned was that this is not ADA compliant. I want to go on the record that we did look into that, and it was raised previously. But we just don't have enough land to make the slope of that walkway ADA compliant. This addresses a concern that was raised where certain folks who are currently customers at the store can use this walkway to get to the store, and it's clearly identified. There was one of the comments that was made, I think Alyssa mentioned that additional signage be needed. There will be signage here and here showing or identifying a crosswalk. As a car comes through here, there are no view obstructions. I think one of the notes that I recall reading from Beta was that they were concerned about a car coming in this direction in a queue and not seeing somebody walking on the walkway. There are no obstructions that could block a view. So it's not like somebody's coming out of an intersection and there's a fence or bushes or anything like that that would impact the sight lines. So I'm not quite sure what they're talking about as it relates to the obstruction of a view of a pedestrian in this location. Bollards were added. These are the additions specifically requested by Councilor Downs. Additional bollards were placed here to prevent cars cutting through or getting out of the lane. That's one of her concerns that she had expressed. Signage over here to direct cars coming into the queue. There's a sign that's going to be here that will be added as an enter sign, exit sign on this location. These, what we're calling concrete barriers, if you will, are little bumps that delineate our property versus the sidewalk. We were looking for any type of visual aid to help clearly define the walkways, sidewalk, and driveways. So hence these markings here, these markings here. And I think I will show you the turning radius plan. So these are templates. So this is a fire truck template. So we wanted to show that there is enough room to get into the property through various means. So these are just demonstrating. And this one is critical for me to show you. And the reason why I think Councilor Downs, when we were speaking with her, wanted to see if we could add bollards here to enhance safety. We couldn't do that because of the fire truck access. So we needed something that is visible, but yet a fire truck can easily drive over. So this is something that we came up with. We also did a template for delivery vehicle. Again, this is just to illustrate that there is enough room to get in and out of the site. So likewise, we had the same thing here just to show that we had to keep that open. So here, this is just an illustration of what it currently is and what we're trying to do. I think there are quite a number of enhancements and improvements from our proposal as compared with the existing conditions. You can clearly see the landscaping enhancements, the safety features all throughout the property. We do have lighting that's being proposed, additional signage that will help drivers come in and out. One of the things that I do want to point out, and I think may have been missed or not have captured, was that the mitigation and the concern of spillage onto Route 9 should the queue back up to this level. We will be having an employee of the store between the hours of 6 a.m. to 12 p.m. Monday through Friday, which are exceeding the peak hours. The typical peak hours last till 10 in the morning, to direct traffic. So I'm going to take a pause at the moment to let Alex, my client, if he's on the call, to jump in to describe how that works, because he does have prior experience working with having an employee direct traffic on a very similar type of concern.
Thanks, Lawrence. Hi, everybody. Thank you for your time. As Lawrence mentioned, we've had some experience in the past with things like this. What we typically like to do is, if anyone's familiar with a bunch of other concepts, Chick-fil-A being probably the most popular one that might resonate, having employees kind of standing in the drive-through lane or standing outside of it. The idea would be, excuse me, that the employee would stand there, and obviously once capacity of the drive-through lane started to get pretty close towards the street, they would either start directing traffic or go as far as block the entrance to the drive-through with a cone, cautioning people that they should turn into the store and park and go in, or that they should continue driving until the queue alleviates. So the idea is that they'd stand in a safe position. They'd be identified through, as you can imagine, some sort of, what we've done is those illuminated vests, and clearly marked as an employee of the store, typically having some sort of illuminated baton and things like that so that they are easily identifiable, and then having the option to actually physically shut down the lane and coordinate people into the store to parking, or to continue to move on to the next opportunity they have to get a coffee up the road.
Thanks, Alex. So let's see. I want to see if there's anything that I want to jump to. So maybe what I'll pause right now also is to let either Amy or Victoria speak a little bit more for the record of the extensive park traffic report and studies that we've done, and the back and forth that they've had with Beta.
Good evening. Lawrence, I can go ahead and speak a little bit if you'd like.
Yes, please. Thanks, Amy.
Good evening, members. Thank you for your time. Amy Archer with Park Corporation. We conducted the traffic impact analysis report and all follow-up responses to the Beta peer review. We looked at the site in many aspects. We looked at the volumes that are currently experienced by this site. We compared it to other sites of similar size as the proposed development. The anticipation or the hope of the owner is that he may someday achieve levels close to what the other stores are doing, although that is a vast increase in sales over the current use of this site. So in many regards, I'd like to point out how the analysis was conservative. We did do counts during COVID, so we had to look at counts in the area pre-COVID and compare our numbers to that. We applied roughly a 50% inflation of on-road traffic. The inflation in sales at the store would also be similar to that percent increase. Those are both very high numbers, and follow-up counts and direction from MassDOT on how to compare counts indicated that they would not anticipate the Route 9 traffic to be that high. That was definitely one point Beta conferred with as we continued our ongoing coordination with them. The site can handle 12 vehicles from the pickup window. That mimics the busier store in Wellesley along the same side of Route 9, looking at that inbound morning traffic. We did observations there. The other thing I want to point out is their sales during COVID actually increased. And if you think about it, they are the nearest eastbound location to us. So during COVID, when these observations were done, our store where people were not able to go inside originally and then were not as comfortable going inside subsequently, we believe we're shifting over to that site because they saw a notable increase in their sales while the other non-drive-through sites were suffering substantial decreases. So we looked at projections over the MassDOT prescribed 7-year period. We analyzed the time interval. I hope everybody remembers the data we shared previously about the turnover rates, and those were very specific to Alex's store, showing the time at each component of the process, that while an overall order takes or can take between 2 and 2.5 minutes, it's between 35 and 41 seconds at each increment. So as the cars continue to move along between the order board and the drive up window, there's enough time for us to turn over a vehicle every 41 seconds. Again, we conservatively rounded that up to 45, giving us ability to serve 80 customers per hour at the drive-through. And similar to the other stores in Wellesley, the drive-through is assumed in the future to be about 75% of the total business. As Lawrence noted, customers will still be able to go inside, whether they do that as curbside pickup or if they want to go in and sit for a while and maybe have a small congregation of people to chat with inside the store. I believe that's a brief overview of the key components. I can certainly answer questions as they come up or as anyone has them.
Thank you, Amy. I would like to jump back in, Mr. Chair, to the PowerPoint just to finish up quickly.
Please.
Thank you so much. One of the things that I heard in my conversations about the project is the main concern about the queuing back onto Route 9. And what Alex had provided in terms of the description of his employee redirecting traffic and stopping additional cars from queuing, that's a real life example, history of an experience that he's had, which was very successful. So again, what will happen is if the queue were to back up, an employee will prevent further queuing. They will redirect cars into the parking lot. If the parking lot is for some reason full, they will direct cars to keep moving on and not to come into the site. As the cars leave the site and the traffic alleviates, then they will allow cars to queue up again. Another concern that I heard is the exit of the site, where the concern is that should there be a pause or a backup of the exit where my cursor is on the right-hand side or easterly side of the site, and this is only a right turn, there will be a queue that will continue to back up onto Route 9. So first of all, the employee, to prevent that from happening, should alleviate the concern. But nevertheless, what naturally happens is if a car is turning right onto our property, they will slow down and make a turn. That naturally creates a pause or a short break in the traffic flow so as to allow cars to leave. The other thing is that there's lights, traffic lights down on the westerly side of this site that does give it pause. This store is not new. There are cars coming in and out of this property currently such that there is no backup of traffic leaving the property. So I wanted to address that, and I wanted to skip to this so that I can summarize really the benefits of what we're looking to do compared to the existing conditions of the property. So we're improving pedestrian safety through lighting, markings, signage, bollards, pedestrian walkways. Traffic safety is also improved through those same reasons. We're improving the aesthetics of the property through the addition of landscaping and reducing impervious surfaces. Alex will be enhancing the facades and remodeling the building. So there'll be a facelift. It'll look brand new when it's all done. We've had submitted the air quality report, which a concern was raised in one of the prior hearings, so we've addressed that. The location, the data that was used in terms of the traffic study, I think are very close to the actual, in the sense that we're using actual data from other stores. So unlike other projects that you may see and you've experienced, where there's a traffic analysis of a proposed use that it does not currently exist, here we're providing data and using data of existing stores, like-kind stores, same Dunkin' Donuts brand, on Route 9. You've heard previously of support from the City of Newton Commission on Disability. I had uploaded their letter of support from last year. One of the key things here is that should this permit or project be approved, we still have to go through Mass Department of Transportation for an access permit. Again, if they feel that we are adding traffic or increasing traffic to Route 9, they will not allow us to go forward. One other final benefit here is that the stormwater management will be added to the site, which is a big benefit. So in terms of the criteria that Alyssa had outlined in the beginning of her presentation of what you should look at as a determination of this petition, is it a public convenience and welfare will be served? And the answer is yes. Going back to the Commission on Disabilities, and I think Ginny Fairley, who is actually on the call tonight, I'm not sure if she's planning on speaking, but she did testify previously along with my partner, Jason Rosenberg, both who have disabilities and have expressed their support and viewpoints as persons with disabilities. Other folks, such as caretakers of children and other dependents, will also be served by not having to get out of their vehicles. Nobody would leave their young children unattended in a car, as an example, so that they receive the same level of service for those that don't have the same obstacles. We've also added seats back into the proposal so as to address the desire to have a place of gathering for the community. Is the site specifics are appropriate for the use and structure? Yes, the answer is yes, because the site is already a Dunkin' Donuts store. It's been there for many decades. We're not introducing a new use. This is a business use in a business district. I can't think of any other place that's more appropriate. We're next to a state highway, where, as Alyssa pointed out, in this particular area of Route 9, this is a very auto-centric location. We're surrounded by a state highway, a towing company, an auto repair store, a gas station, and an office building. Is the use going to be adverse to the neighborhood? It will not be adverse to the neighborhood. This is, as I said earlier, this is already an existing store, and it's not something new that we are introducing. It will not be a nuisance or serious hazard to vehicles or pedestrians, because we have provided a whole list of enhancements to the existing conditions. So purely looking at the enhancements that we're proposing compared to existing conditions, the proposed conditions will be much better for pedestrians and vehicle traffic. And the access to the site, is it appropriate for the types of vehicles involved? And I would say yes, this is an appropriate site. Again, this is an existing location. We're just effectively changing it. We're reducing 23 parking lot down to 9, and altering the parking spaces that we're eliminating into a driving queue, a drive-through queue. So I'll leave it there, and if there are any questions, please feel free. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Lee. We will now go to the public for comment. If there's anybody here that wishes to speak, please raise your virtual hand and I will call on you. This is the third time we have taken up this petition, so I wouldn't be surprised if there aren't many people here. Sean Roach.
Hello. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. First of all, I want to just acknowledge that the property owner, I'm sure, is looking to increase the value of his property in a situation where the existing use of non-drive-through Dunkin' Donuts is clearly deteriorated. But I don't think it's the province of the city council to ensure that the particular use, this franchise use, the Dunkin' Donuts, be maintained on the property. Drive-throughs, as a general rule, are widely recognized and as bad for cities. They're disfavored. There are municipalities across the country, including Minneapolis, that have banned them. They add traffic. We're adding driveways to a very complex stretch with the Ramsdale, the CVS, the gas station. So adding this is going to cause deteriorated traffic. It's going to increase traffic. So I think the city council needs to say, sorry, for environmental reasons, for traffic reasons, for pedestrian safety. Mr. Lee said, it's an auto-centric neighborhood, absolutely correct. But it's also right next door to two multi-residence homes. It's a residential neighborhood. So this is not, and Newton shouldn't be approving any drive-throughs. We haven't approved any drive-throughs recently. And if not approving the drive-through means that there can be a Dunkin' Donut franchise there anymore, there are plenty of other uses that the property owner can put this lot to that will provide value. It's a large enough lot for other commercial. It's a large enough lot for more multi-residents. There's multi-residents next door. It's just drive-throughs are not the future. Drive-throughs are not what we need in a time of climate crisis. Sadly, I think that the city council needs to reject this special permit application. Thank you as always for your time. Oh, one other thing.
Yes.
Drive-throughs are not the only way to serve, and they're not a very particularly targeted way to serve the disabled community or anybody else who requires service without getting in their car. We have learned through the pandemic that companies can provide parking lot service. They can provide car service to folks who need it. So to say that we need to have a drive-through for disabled folks and for mothers with children they don't want to take out of the car, I think is disingenuous. If we want to serve those communities, the easy way to do is curbside pickup. Curbside pickup is an easy solution done by businesses all across the region. We don't need drive-throughs and their attendant problems to serve the needs of particular communities. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Roach, and very impressive plumbing. Either you wanted to show that off or your wife banished you to the basement. It's one or the other, I don't know. Thank you very much. A little bit of both? Okay, thank you.
Ms. Lipoff, am I able to field just a couple of answers to that?
In a second, just want to,
sure.
Yeah, you know what, go ahead.
I was just, there was a talk of environmental concerns. We actually provided a report, as Mr. Lee prefaced, that we spent time on with an environmental company that showed zero impact or relatively zero impact versus what the use is today. And then if you're referring to the idling factor and the environment, curbside is actually a worse use where cars just sit idle and wait for our employees to service them remotely. And then it's actually, I want to just reiterate too that this area is actually zoned for drive up. So that's why we're even going to this length to promote this use as well. So I just wanted to touch on the environmental concerns, and then and also I'm not the landowner, so I don't know if that increases the property value or not.
Thank you very much. Anybody else from the public before we take it into the council that wishes to speak? Mr. Roach, you can put your hand down. Thanks. Jenny Fairley.
Hi there. Good evening. Thank you, Chair Lipoff, and everyone. I have spoken to this committee before, and I just wanted to reiterate not only the convenience, but the ability to easily be served by this restaurant for people with disabilities, whether they themselves are driving up, as Jason Rosenberg does, sometimes from their power chair, sometimes they have transferred there, but the ability to get out of the car and park the car, get out of the car, walk into Dunkin' Donuts. It's an enormous amount of effort and activity, and may also be, detrimental to the reasons that they're stopping in the first place. I don't speak for the Commission on Disability. I speak to the fact that they did support, and you do have that letter again, which is, I'm glad to see that Attorney Lee gave you that. And yes, there's other concerns, but this one is we're talking 25% of people with disabilities. It's a market that people don't even consider sometimes. And in this situation, it would be certainly would be a population that would take much more advantage of a drive-in. And it was very obvious, people with disabilities, many of them had, during COVID, had the concern, as I did as well, to be extra careful because of inherent diseases and things that they are dealing with. And they could go to a drive-through for whatever. Bank of America, I really like that one in Newton Highlands. I used it all the time. The one in Newton Center. This is not to be denied in that sense that we are serving a population. It's not the only reason. I think the petitioner has really stepped up to all of the concerns you had at other meetings that I have attended. So thank you very much for letting me speak on behalf of maybe not all people with disabilities, but just to point out how convenient this is, and how and curbside check-in, or whatever that's called, curbside check-in. I think I'm at an airport. Curbside service sometimes implies that you had to order it on the way, and that's not always easy either. Just pulling up, getting your drink, and going is the fastest way. So thank you very much. I hope you will approve.
Thank you. Okay, looks like we're going to go into the council right now. Councilor Markowitz.
Why don't you go ahead and hear Councilor Humphrey first?
Councilor Humphrey.
This is his ward. I think he's been working on this quite a bit.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Councilor Markowitz. Obviously, I can't speak for my other Ward 5 colleagues. They're not here tonight, so I'll just speak for myself. I still have pretty serious concerns about this proposal, and if I were voting on it tonight, still wouldn't be in favor of it, even with these revisions. I appreciate that there were a lot of good improvements made in this iteration in response to specific feedback. In particular, I'm glad that there will now be still indoor seat options, which is especially important, and also ADA accessibility into that area, which is important because, as we mentioned in the previous round of this, there's a couple large populations of people with disabilities in the area who do not have cars at all. So a drive-through does not benefit them. So I do like that those changes were made and incorporated. I really appreciate that. And I think that my colleagues, if they were here, would probably comment on the addressing of that Ramsdell connection as being an important improvement as well. But that being said, I still feel like that the congestion and backup issues to Route 9 have not really been adequately addressed. It's an area where people are accelerating from a stoplight to 45 miles per hour pretty rapidly. And that's not the same, for example, as the situation on California Street with the McDonald's drive-through, which is our, sort of point of comparison, I think, within Newton. I don't know the exact situation about the Route 9 Duncan location in Wellesley. I think maybe people are decelerating there, but I don't know that for sure. So I just still really have concerns about that. And I would also encourage the Land Use Committee to not only check the current zoning maps, but to check the current draft of the proposed rezoning maps, because this is within that area of the Elliott Station area into Newton Highlands Village Center section that was being rezoned along Route 9. And in fact, that proposed rezoning, although I think there's still some tweaks to be made there, is pretty much in line with what I had suggested to the committee in the previous round, would be a more appropriate use of not only this site, but all of the adjoining sites, which is, a sort of large mixed use project of some kind, or several projects with many fewer driveways and in access from one driveway or two driveways as opposed to a curb cut every few feet. So just bear that in mind. Obviously those changes haven't been made yet, but it's important context to be thinking about in terms of potential uses. And I really agreed with everything that Mr. Roach said in his comments earlier. And I know we've gotten some emails, and I guess I saw there were comments in the Zoom comment function. I didn't know that was on these days. Maybe it's not supposed to be, but this is the general tenor of the communications that I've received as the Ward 5 counselor. Very, very few, maybe one or two people saying that they're in favor of it, and everyone else expressing the same concerns. So while I appreciate the improvements that were made, I'm still not comfortable with it at this time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councilor Humphrey. Councilor Markowitz.
Thank you, Chair. I listened very carefully to what Councilor Humphrey said, and this has always been a tough one for me. This is the third time we're seeing it. I think I abstained last time around when I was leaning approval, and I'm going to go ahead and support this. I think that notwithstanding the fact that drive-throughs are going away, but we really don't have a lot of them in Newton anyway. I think this is a unique site. I think the queuing there can be managed, and I'm willing to go ahead and give this petitioner a chance on this one to help promote that business. I am persuaded a great deal by Ms. Fairley's comments. I was last time. I continue to think that those are also relevant. So, this is a close one, but I think in this case, I'm going to go ahead and support the petitioner this time. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilor Kelly.
Thank you. I'm going to speak not through Zoom, but through my microphone here. I was actually very, very appreciative of hearing Councilor Humphrey speak as the ward councilor from this ward. We all bring our own experience and expertise to the Land Use Committee, and I happen to be a site planner and a landscape designer, and so I look at this plan from that perspective. I had committed to, which I always would anyway, I had promised the petitioner's attorney today that I would keep an open mind to all the changes that they were bringing forward, and that's because I had spoken against this project the last two times it was before us. So I was hoping that the mediation measures being brought forth tonight would be impressive to me, but they're not. The enhancements, so to speak, I don't think really compensate for the additional problems that it's bringing, whether this is really called a drive-in, as the planning department calls it, or a drive-through, as the petitioner calls it, and I'm not sure if linguistically what those differences really mean. It will definitely be bringing more cars to this site. I'm not sure it will be bringing more cars to this section of Route 9, but unlike the Wellesley locations, as I've mentioned this before, we have the cars coming from 128 and 90 from both directions that will be on this stretch of it after they don't have access to the Wellesley one. And then I think the whole point of doing this is to increase traffic, foot traffic and vehicular traffic. So you're bringing a lot more cars to this site than are there now. A few trees, and good luck to them in this asphalt jungle. When I look at this as a site planner, the convoluted curves and arches of the roadway, the speed bumps to allow vehicles to go over but aren't really separating vehicular traffic from pedestrians, having to put bibs or vests and lighted batons in the hands of human employees to control the traffic on Route 9. This all feels to me like trying to force a solution for an inappropriate use on a difficult site. I think that rear crosswalk, which I understand is to encourage people from that sort of south side of the neighborhood to walk here, is at a difficult location. It may not be visually blocked, but it's right on a curve, and you don't do that. You don't put crosswalks on a curve. There may not be a visual obstacle blocking your view, but you don't do it right there. And I see why you're not putting it down further east where it should be because of the site constraints, because of the slope, because of the walls that you've got. But that just shows me that you're trying to force solutions that aren't reasonable. I am glad too, as Councillor Humphrey said, that there are some seats added inside. I think that was an improvement. I'm glad you tried to address adding that 8-foot wide crosswalk at the front of the store. I don't know how many people are really going to be walking down there, but I'd rather have an 8-foot wide and accessible sidewalk or crosswalk than none or what's there now. So I see that you've tried to tweak this. I think you're trying to push it as hard as possible. And as some of my colleagues, who I think might usually be lawyers, say, with all due respect to Attorney Lee, who I do respect very much, you're doing your due diligence to push this through for your client, and that's your job. But my job is to look at this in terms of public safety and an asset to the community. And I really interpret some of those conditions and findings very differently than Mr. Lee. And I will not, again, be voting in favor of this tonight.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Greenberg.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I will be supporting this because I think it's an improvement to the current site plan. The accessibility issue is important to me also, in that I will believe that if the drive-through feature on Route 9 becomes a problem, that MassDOT will have the final say, and if it's a dangerous situation. So I'm comfortable with this petition.
Thank you, Councilor Lucas.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This, I think we're all familiar with this project and this site. This is the third time this petitioner has come back, and I voted for it the last time, and I will vote for it again.
Thank you. We do like to have people's names when they come here, so I'll just say what's on there. Fertility within reach.
So sorry. Let's see.
Miss Reach?
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can. Please state your name and address.
Sorry about that. It's Davina Fankhauser at 1115 Boylston Street in Newton Upper Falls. I have testified 2 previous times in favor of this. I am a frequent flyer at Dunkin' Donuts, and my friends, all in their 80s, who have grown up in Newton, we all support this project, even though we may not spend all of our times, spending as much time in the building. But during COVID, we hung out outside anyways of Dunkin' Donuts. So it was just fine with us. I'll get to the point, though. As much as I enjoy my time inside, I do believe, being the witness, that it is a safer plan. It is in the better interest of Newton, of my neighborhood. And, I've heard testimony saying that, they're trying to push this through. And I don't see that. I see them trying to accommodate, trying to work with this committee, trying to make this a win-win situation, because it really is in the best interest, not just for his business, but for Newton and his customers. And he is witness to that. So I really ask this committee, who is looking towards voting against it, if you are not eyewitness and you are not believing in the research and the testimony that has been presented, then what exactly are you basing your no vote on? I just don't understand it. So I hope you will reconsider, trust in the DOT, and vote in favor of this. And again, I apologize for the name.
It's okay. Don't worry about it. Thank you very much. Councillor Bowman.
Thank you very much. So I guess I will start by saying that I appreciate the work the petitioner has put in and his team have put into trying to rehabilitate this site, because that's what this is, a rehabilitation. The site as it exists today is very unsafe. It's not accessible. We know that. We know we have residents who live in Newton Highlands at the Hyde Housing Authority, who are willing to come to the CVS in a wheelchair across Route 9 and cross the parking lot of CVS, but they're unwilling and unable to come to the Dunkin' Donuts today for a variety of reasons, mostly because they feel unsafe crossing the parking lot, and then the door doesn't really provide them good access, doesn't allow them to get in without some assistance. So for all of those reasons, creating a safer pedestrian experience as much as it could be on Route 9, and step one of a safer pedestrian experience on the rear street. It's named at almost 10 o'clock at night. It's escaping Ramsdale. This will be step one. This could be step one if we pass it. There are many other things that need to be done to that street, and ensuring that your neighbors are not using this as a cut through and are staying to the roads. I think there's a lot to love about that. I am highly concerned about vehicle backup in the morning. We're in the late afternoon when we see those cars backing up west of Woodward Street, and if that it all adds to that, and I think people will have concerns. But in some regards, that MassDOT is responsible for making the street Route 9 run smoothly, so I suppose they can deal with that. And I hear, as someone who attends all the Commission on Disability meetings, I hear that perspective for people who are disabled, who are using a vehicle. That's certainly not all people with disabilities. We have many who do not drive. So the fact that this site now really has some accommodation for both makes me feel a lot better about it. Honestly, I look at the site, I look at the zoning that we're hoping to pass in the next few months, and wonder, obviously I don't think, considering we're talking about potentially zoning this to be VC3 with a much taller building, I do wonder, how long a change like this would last. But again, that's not my job. That's not our job here tonight. So from that aspect, all right, I'm really on the fence on this. I appreciate, I don't think I've ever seen a petition that's come back to us 3 times. A petition that's had this much work done to it. I hear from Councillor Kelly that she still feels like not enough has been done. I feel like a lot more has been done here than we see in many sites. And I think your willingness to work and maintain some seating inside, which then makes it more of a walkable location, and to address that has been just the 1% I needed to tip me over to say that I would support this petition. Very reluctantly. I am interested in what MassDOT's going to say, but it's just enough to say it improves the current situation enough that I feel like it's a benefit. That's really what persuades me. I'm not sure, so that's what I'm going to be voting yes on this tonight, probably in surprise to a few people, but I'm not thrilled about the drive-through, but I am convinced that this is just enough of a site improvement that I think it's better than it continuing to exist as it does today. So long-winded, given that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Sorry about that.
I don't know when to stop you, and I don't want to ever cut you off, but I felt like you needed. There you go. Okay. Thank you very much.
Yeah, it's okay. Sorry about that.
That's all right. Don't worry about it. It's some of them are tough. Okay. I guess I'm the last to speak here. I will align myself with the comments of Councilors Kelly and Humphrey. The way I looked at this was each time this petition has come to us, they did not have a solution for the biggest safety issue that's in front of us, which is cars coming off of Route 9 and safely getting onto the site and traffic not backing up. Each time there was no solution. The solution this time is to put a human being at risk standing there with 3 different options to move cars as they come off of Route 9 at varying speeds. If I was the owner of that business, I wouldn't want to have the insurance policy on that. The crosswalk at the back is just another opportunity for humans and cars to come in conflict. I can just see somebody smashing trying to walk on the crosswalk, and everybody thinks that they have the absolute right of way and smack the hood of a car because they're coming too close to them. That's just that's not a solution. That's a further issue. The biggest problem I have is you count the cars from Route 9 to where you order your coffee. 6 to 7 cars, which means 7 or 8 want to come in at 8 o'clock in the morning, and they're going to be waiting outside on Route 9. And if the person brings them into the property, tells them to go on, I just think that is not a solution to a safety issue that this is all about for me. When I look at the other drive-throughs around the area, the lots are much, much bigger than this. It allows for a completely different queuing. And this is in front of us 3 times because each time it didn't work for a lot of us. And the solution for the number one safety issue is to put an employee on Route 9 at the corner in a vest, waving people, making quick decisions on 3 different ways to wave people. It doesn't work for me. And I don't think this needs to come back a 4th time. People will vote the way they will. I don't think this is safe. I won't be voting for it. Can I have a motion? Close the public hearing by Councilor Lucas. All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, abstentions, the public hearing is closed. Do we have a motion? Motion to approve by Councilor Lucas. Can we take a look at a council order?
Yes, hold on a second. Okay. So the findings are the site in a business 2 zoning district is an appropriate location for the proposed drive-in business due to its location in a business zone and mix of commercial uses nearby. The site is an appropriate location for the proposed and two freestanding principal signs because the menu board associated with the use is considered a freestanding sign from the Boylston Street public way. The site will be present as having one freestanding principal sign. 2, the proposed drive-in business will not adversely affect the neighborhood. 3, the proposed drive-in business as designed will not create a nuisance or serious hazard to vehicles or pedestrians. 4, access to the site over streets is appropriate for the types and numbers of vehicles involved. 5, literal compliance with the perimeter landscaping requirements for parking facilities is in public interest because there will be an overall increase in landscaping from the existing conditions. 6, literal compliance with the outdoor lighting requirements for parking facilities is impracticable due to the nature of the use or the location, size, width, depth, shape, or grade of the lot, or that exceptions to one or more said requirements would be in the public interest or in the interest of safety or protection of environmental features. 7, the 2 freestanding signs and directional signs should be permitted and are appropriate due to the site's location on Route 9.
So I think we can add some information to this based on the discussion tonight. I would also be the planning department's also looking for direction from the committee on the proposed mitigation of the employee in the parking lot, whether that should be a condition of the special permit that has not been reviewed by the peer reviewer. I think I, sort of align myself with Councilor Lipoff's concerns on that and whether that's something the city should incorporate as a condition or just leave it alone without that mitigation.
Do we have any liability if we ask for that and something goes wrong?
It's a good question, Chair. To be honest, this is news to me tonight, so it's probably something I'd want to sit with a little more and would certainly want the peer reviewer to look at if we were going to condition to require that. I also don't think that person would have any authority to direct traffic on the actual street.
Okay, so we're going to leave that out for now. I just don't see how we put that in, which further complicates. Okay, thank you, Mr. Temple. I appreciate that. So I don't think we put that in. We don't have enough legal basis for it. Continue.
So for the conditions, we have a standard plan condition. We also have a condition to install a sign on Ramsdale Street for deliveries only. We have the standard building permit condition as well as the snow storage plan that was identified as something that would be recommended by Beta. Then we also have the standard final inspection certificate of occupancy condition.
Okay, thank you. All right, we have a motion to approve. Please call the roll, Mr. Clerk.
Councilor Bowman,
Abstain.
Councilor Downs, Councilor Greenberg,
Aye.
Councilor Kelly,
No.
Councilor Laredo, Councilor Lipoff,
No.
Councilor Lucas,
Aye.
Councilor Markowitz.
Aye.
Motion passes.
What's the vote?
3-2.
3-2-1. 3-2-1. 3-2-1 is the abstention the last, right? We rarely get them. 3-2-1. So that does pass the committee. It will have to go to the full council next. Okay? Thank you, everybody. That concludes our business.
Thank you.
Thank you.